Hey, everybody. So hopefully we're live. The light says live. So yeah, it's fantastic. So no Stan today. Stan is out. He's got something going on, not feeling good. I know he was at a convention a couple weeks ago. I asked him if it was con crud, and he said no, it was just crud. So we wish him well and all of that. So
that's common among half ogres.
yeah, so there you go. There you go.
That's usually the name, Quad the half ogre.
Yeah, there you go. Crud the half. I like that. Yeah, crud. Yeah. So today we got Vic with us.
Hey guys.
The Dutch Delight.
Yeah, the Dutch Delight.
Yeah, the Dutch Delight. That may have been holdover from a different kind of chat. I don't know, but
I don't know.
but yeah, we'd love to have him here, even though it's close to midnight where he is. But
yeah. That's fine. I'm usually awake at this hour anyway.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And Matt's with us, Mothership Matt, and he's having mic issues. So hopefully we'll get that straightened out. A little bit. It's a little bit low.
Hopefully it's okay.
Yeah. There you go. It's fantastic. Jason, of course, is still with us after his couple week hiatus. He's back for a while now until he goes on another road trip in Europe.
Not until June of 2027, I'm afraid.
Yeah, there you go. So you did sign up for another one.
The lottery on Thursday.
Wait, June of 2027?
Yeah.
When?
These things are not they are not cheap.
When in June though?
I have to look, man. I don't know.
During Central New York Con.
I may miss CNY 3.
Oh my God.
Well, I could do a cast from Ireland.
Oh, you're so cut off. So, Mike, how's everything going?
I'm dead to Roger now.
Jason, I'll come with you.
Excellent.
Mike, how's everything going?
Great. Wonderful.
You going to be around next June, or are you going to plan on banning me also?
I don't know. Maybe I'll be in Ireland.
No.
Speaking of which, our man Andy from the UK has just dropped in to say hello. He's heading out. Hello, Andy.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Thanks for coming by, man. Appreciate it.
Andy, yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. Take care. Yeah, very focused RPG show, always on topic. Yeah, I told I think I was on Death Angel's stream, and they were getting off topic last week, and I was kind of breaking their chops about it, saying, "Yeah, guys, this isn't like my stream where we're 3.5 hours of focused discussion."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Topics are overrated anyway.
Yeah, right. So first time viewer, Chubby. So Chubby, he said back here that his son's going to try and run his first game with Blacklight, which I think is an amazing.
Yeah.
Anything that's built on Shadow Dark, obviously, I think is great to run for the first time. It's really easy.
Absolutely.
Blacklight, especially if you're into the modern stuff, and I think it's fantastic to run. It's awesome. So we'd love to we'd love to hear back on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And see how that goes. So today we're talking about modern genre gaming. And before we get into that, though, I got one thing in. I think just the one thing that I got to show off, and that's it. I don't know how much stuff you guys got, but this showed up. This showed up today. It's a book. Winning Secrets. Did you back this, Vic?
Yeah.
You get it?
I'm friends with some of the Browser people.
Yeah.
And they actually came on the Basic Experts in my show to promote that. So.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm interested in checking it out. They definitely push 1E for the most part, first edition. Mm-hmm. That's kind of their thing, and the 1-to-1 time and all of that. So, but I'm interested on in some of the things that they've been doing. So. I think some of it's good stuff. So
they have a bit of a reputation, but
yeah. They definitely have a reputation. It's a good way of putting it. But other than that, I think that's all that I got in. I know I got the other Blacklight books. I didn't really show that off, I think, but that's the same as the last time. Because it looks identical to me, just more stuff. But with the fixed border though. Fixed border. That was apparently important for some people.
I like the original border. I thought it made it look really cool. I didn't even realize it was some kind of pointy error. I thought it looked awesome.
Looks photocopied army manuals. Yeah,
that's exactly what it looks like. Man, I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Well, apparently
Cool
a
stuff.
single person complained, and that made Drive to RPG like disable it and like made me redo the whole thing. And then it took like almost 2 months for it to get like the proofs ready and all that stuff. So it was like a nightmare. But yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and that takes forever. So Chubby was telling us though, whenever you order anything from drive-through, if you did you hear this?
Order 5 books. Yeah,
order 5 copies.
I have to do that next time. Yeah.
yeah, and it'll get there. It gets put to the top of the shipping order.
I should have told them like, no, that's part of the look. Like I didn't think of it, but I should have literally told them like, no, that's part of the whole like printed manual look. Like what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's part of the style. Leave me alone, right? Just
yeah.
No one else cared. Yeah. But that's all I got really. I think this week, which is just the one book. Mike, you get anything this week? You said no, right? Backstage, you didn't.
Not gaming related. I got some more movies.
Yeah, cool. No movies though, and not no guitar picks. No other.
No guitar picks.
Amazon,
we got our
stories.
Gladiator and Braveheart.
Okay, cool.
And the greatest movie ever made.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
No.
All right.
I hear you, Jason. You're wrong, but I hear you.
It was a good movie.
I'm with you, Mike.
I saw it in the theater when I was
Mike.
a kid. It was a good movie. I'm not saying it's not good. I just don't have that bond with it.
Yeah. I'm with you, Mike. They're talking about making a sequel like now.
I'm not
stuff, which
I don't know. I mean, they would have to. I mean, listen, Top Gun did it. It came out and ended up being a great movie, but very few movies can actually make a sequel that many years later. And
yeah. Maverick had like a golden halo around it. That movie was excellent.
Listen, if they don't remake it, right? If they do it when everybody's older and they have a whole different story to it, maybe they could do something great with it. But if they just try and remake it, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not really hot on the idea. Just leave it alone.
Yeah. So some things it's cool to go back to, but something like that, I don't know. I think it's too long at this point. They're all going to be in wheelchairs. You know, it's just not. I don't know. We'll see. What? How about you, Jason? Would you get in this week?
I don't have any new books. What I got was I finally got a ton of frames for all the art that I've been collecting from the cons I've been going to over the past 9 years. So I'm taking everything out of its cardboard tube and framing it up. But I have very quickly run out of wall space. You can see behind me, I've got my new shelves back there. I've got a huge shelf off to my left. I've got more shelves off to my right. And I'm like, okay, time to hang these up. And I'm like, wow, this is like playing Tetris with my frames is what this is. But I've got some favorites hung up. I'm really happy about that. Unearthed Arcanus behind me.
Nice.
So that was the first thing I hung up. And that is also the Haunted Galleon that Joe gave me. He's a lunatic for buying that thing, but I finally got it assembled and it's sitting up on display. It's going to be a huge dust magnet, but whatever. It still looks super cool.
Yeah.
But the best part about framing these really is I'm putting them in the frames. I'm remembering when I picked them up because my memory sucks. And so like I'm remembering my conversations with all the artists that I had while I was getting the art. And
That's
so
awesome.
I'm sitting there smiling, thinking about this stuff. So I don't really have anything to show off unless you want to see this stuff. But
was it making you sad? Were you getting sad as you were putting them in the frames, realizing that the frames cost you more than the pieces of art did?
Well, no, because I went to Hobby Lobby and they had a huge frame sale. Everything was 50% off at least.
Well, so you bought stock frames?
Yeah, a lot of them. Oh, no. Now I understand what you're talking about. I have two.
Like those.
Yes.
That thing cost me more than the artwork.
I have. Well, let's see. I'll do what you're doing. See if you can see it. No. Okay. See the Lego and then the art above that.
Yep.
I think that print cost me $40. I mean, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And I have a couple by the same artist. The damn frame was $350.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I doing this? I mean, it's beautiful. I really, and the frame looks perfect with that art. But why? And also, my only defense about that is when I took it to Hobby Lobby to have the frame built, I didn't realize how much the frame was going to cost until they called me and said, ready to pick up. I went and picked it up, and I went to the checkout counter, and she rung it up, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got lucky when I got the Red Dragon one that's not hanging right now. It's sitting over there. The Red Dragon and the Green Dragon ones, when I got them done, I did them at Hobby Lobby, and they had a sale going on, so I got them at half price. It still cost me $350 for the two of them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's the matting, the custom size.
Absolutely. And some of the stuff, I'm like, some of these prints, I love them, but they're not worth that amount of framework.
Yeah.
But some of this stuff I have, I mean, it's just a print, but to me, it's worth spending that because they look stunning hung up. So
right.
I'll be honest. After that, I started buying all the smaller size because these fit in standard frames, and then you can buy frames for $20 each.
I bought 4 frames from Amazon. Each one was $15 a piece.
Yeah,
you can't tell any difference.
And the nice part about those is I can fit more on my walls. You buy the big ones; they take up a lot of space.
Yes, the mat work, increases your frame, the frame size by 50%. So, totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Dan, you missed where Stan went. Well, we got bad news for you, buddy.
He died.
Stan is not feeling well.
Can I talk? I won't talk about any of the more of them, but can I talk about this one?
The Shadow. Yeah, sure. I want to get through what everybody else got, but yeah, go. I mean, go.
Okay,
go
yeah, I promise it'll be short-ish. So I'm a huge fan of the Shadow. I have loved the Shadow since I was a kid. Just such a cool character. I love that. It takes place in the 30s. It's just awesome. So anytime the Shadow gets re-released as a comic. Oh, by the way, I also have all the original radio shows on MP3. They're great. So anytime the Shadow gets re-released as a comic or as a graphic novel or whatever, I always pick it up and read it and love it. So I was at GaryCon one year, and I was talking to Jeff Butler, and I was just looking at his art, and he had some Green Hornet covers. And I was like, oh, wow, you did the covers for Dynamite's Green Hornet. That's really cool. And I said, I like Green Hornet, but really I'm more of a Shadow guy. And he goes, oh, dude, well, I did the Shadow too. And he didn't have any of the Shadow stuff out. And I was like, well, dude, I want to buy one. And he's like, I don't think I brought it. And I was like, oh my God, dude. And so, but he's like, hang on, let me go. So he goes behind his little partition area, and he's ruffling around his bags. He's like, oh, I got one. So he comes over, and that's the one that he had. And when he pulled it out, a Punisher cover came out. And I'm a huge fan of the Punisher. And I was like, what the hell's that? And he's like, oh, that's my Punisher. And I was like, well, I need to buy that too. So, nice. so I ended up standing there talking to the guy for half an hour about his work with the Shadow and the Punisher. And it was just, Jeff Butler was a boatload of fun to talk to. Super nice guy.
Yeah.
End of story. There we go.
Cool. Matt, over to you, buddy. What do you got? You got a pile of stuff this week or what?
I did. I mean, it's like the last 2 weeks, so I'm cheating a little bit, but
yeah, no, that's fine.
So I didn't actually realize this was out to print until you mentioned it a few weeks back, but I got, this is the Father Fog. It's the,
cool.
What is it? Like a fairy tale horror fantasy
fairy tale on the mothership.
it's the Panic Engine, I think they call it.
Yeah. Is that what they call it? The Panic Engine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then I got Brackish with that. I got the digital and didn't do the print before, so I threw that in. This is by the guy that did Deadweight, which is like the meat black hole thing.
Yeah,
I think you guys played. Yeah, so this is his. It's not related, but that was the next module that he did. I got Demi-Dirge, which is Lazy Lich. I don't know if you guys do Lazy Lich stuff at all. Like Willow and Willow, Woodfall, Haunted Hamlet, Toxic Wraith, Mana Meltdown.
That sounds familiar, but yeah, I don't think
the art in these is just absolutely spectacular. Always, like, this is one of the spreads in the middle. So this is this is a Shadow Dark funnel. So that's check that out. I got a couple other Shadow Dark modules. One's a 1 through 3, and one's a 4 through 6. Lost Opus of the Lich Bard. Sounds kind of neat. And then I got a bunch of East Asian stuff. So I was telling you, Roger, I printed, I didn't talk about this last week. I PDF combined all the Thousand Island zines.
Yeah.
One PDF and then spiral bound print on demand. So this is like
how thick is that?
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's like 10 PDFs. But I wanted to be able to read a physical one that isn't. The zines are like $40 a zine now.
Really?
They're really out of print.
Yeah.
So, but I like having a physical thing for the table. And then related to that, I got the Kala Mandala playbook and the 3 modules for that. This is for Cairn, and it's by one of the Thousand Island creators because they, I guess, unamicably split up and dissolved all their creative interests together. So they're all out of print forever. But so that's that. And then I got Stealing Cthulhu and Cosmic Dark, which I'm pretty excited about. Stealing Cthulhu is about how to use basically how to steal stuff from other works, movies, games, books, and incorporate them into your game. And one of the cool things about this book is it's if you know like House of Leaves, you guys know the book House of Leaves? So it's got like some House of Leaves going on where it's like annotated by, you can see like all the writing that's, so like another author has like annotated the work with like other things, which is kind of cool. And there's actually a game in there as well. And then there's the future sci-fi version of it is Cosmic Dark. So that just fulfilled, which is cool. And then the last thing is Tomb Punk. This was there's I forget if it's backer kit or Kickstarter for this that's going to be fulfilling. That was a reprint plus adventure and some other stuff. I guess he had like a binding issue with the ones that they did from the last Kickstarter. So like a bunch of the bindings failed. So he disassembled them and like spiral bound them.
Oh, nice.
And then just sold them all for $5.
That's cool.
So I grabbed a few of these. It's like Jason, you would hate this game. That was one of the things as I was reading this, I was like, well, Jason would hate this game. It's a very Mork Borgish kind of. I don't think it's as gross, but it's very rules light. It's like the art. It's very comic book art, which is cool. I think the aesthetic is really nice. There's no leveling. There's like the advancement is just your gear and stuff. So it's definitely not.
Yeah.
But it's pretty. It's pretty neat game. So
Paul says he needs the Thousand Island collection. Yeah.
Yeah. Reach of the Roach God is like $400 or $500 now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess I should have got in on that.
Or you
before.
can just
this is
PDF.
I look at stuff like that, and then this is why, for anybody that's wondering why I end up backing so many ridiculous like Kickstarters and stuff, because then you get back.
So the artist is doing that now. He's drawing and writing the Kala Mandala stuff, and there's like so much art in this. And then the one who did the writing, he's done all kinds of stuff. He's got lots of modules out for all kinds of different systems. He did one of the modules in the one of the adventures in the Cairn box set. So they were both still out there making stuff. It's just that apparently they had some kind of serious
they split ways
relationship, and all that stuff's gone forever.
That happens, yeah. Can you still get that stuff online or like PDFs?
You can find the PDFs, but you can't buy them. Like it's not for sale digitally at all.
Oh, okay. So you can't even get the digital PDF.
You cannot legally acquire. Yeah, you cannot legally acquire any of that material anymore. It is all completely gone.
Yeah. So they're done. You can't get it. We don't want to tell anybody out there that it's okay to steal stuff or to illegally obtain stuff. I mean, but if you know,
matey, we wouldn't want to promote that sort of thing.
We don't condone stealing.
In this case, I own them all, so I sort of view it like when you play ROMs on a handheld. Like if you own it, it's like I'm just repurposing something I own. So
there you go.
That's my story.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stick with that.
being an arcade collector for all these years and doing all that stuff, I can tell you now that it's not a valid legal argument, but
Hey,
it sounds good. It sounds good. Everybody likes.
Whoa,
not
Mike,
the
are you
legal
a
ego
lawyer?
channel. Yeah,
No one on this channel is a lawyer. We can't confirm or deny anything that anybody's saying.
So,
yes,
yeah.
I have physical copies of all the ROMs I own.
There you go. Me too.
I used to. I couldn't possibly say that now.
Vic, how about you? Everything you have is all 100% legal, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've never
Sure.
pirated anything in my life.
Right, absolutely. Why would yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What you get anything cool? Anything game related?
Nothing physical. I rarely buy physical because there's just no reason to, because nobody except me plays tabletop RPGs here apparently. But I did buy the new Tristat on Drive to RPG because I'm a big Tristat fan from back in the day. Big eyes, small mouth, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I did because I was curious, and it was deal of the day, and I'm always curious how other people do stuff. I bought like this 5e modern thing that was deal of the day yesterday. It's called the Spy Game. Looks pretty cool. It was actually kind of funny because I was looking at the weapons list and like all the gear, because that's like always the thing I do first.
Sure.
And like a lot of like the naming conventions are exactly of how I did them in my 5e thing, to the point where I had to actually check the date when this was like released. Like, and that's actually, I think it actually predates mine. So it's like, oh, I guess I ripped them off somehow. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But
Nice.
it looks pretty decent. It's like 5e like special forces, like spy like type stuff. So I might run it at some point. Looks pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah, so definitely modern.
Yeah.
So right before we get into our topic, I got to sidetrack things because that's how we roll. Even though usually it's not me, it's somebody else, I think.
No, it's never you.
I'm always, but no, I wanted to let everybody know that for the convention for CNY, Agile Monk has donated 10 weekend passes that's earmarked for veterans, and prioritizing disabled vets. So that's cool. So he's got those. So if somebody's a vet out there, disabled vet, or they know somebody and they're trying to get to the convention, and they want to get a pass or whatever, contact me and we'll get it straightened out for that. But yeah, good stuff. So
yeah, thank you, Agile Monk. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if he's I didn't see him say anything.
I haven't seen him yet, no, but I'm sure he'll watch this later.
But we'll see. So yeah,
I thought he was in here earlier and posted something about World of Warcraft.
right
at the beginning of the stream, I thought he made a comment about it.
Oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. So today we're talking about the modern genre, right? Now, I had an issue with this. I was thinking about this, and I don't know. Maybe it's just my brain, right? That goes a little weird. But I started thinking about all the modern games that I have, and I just kept pushing them off to being in really a different genre. Like I've got like, okay, so like Blacklight, right? Like this is modern, right? I mean, yeah. Vic is like the king of making, like, that's all he makes is modern games. So that's how I know this is modern, right? Like, sorry, Vic, I don't mean to,
no, that's fine.
A pigeonhole here, but right. But like, it's like modern, but is it like, can things be multiple genres? Like, is that so it's modern and it's sci-fi, or is it more modern than sci-fi, or like, am I way overthinking it and just?
Well, it kind of does combine. So I actually made it to combine various genres. So I made it to like be urban fantasy. I made it to be kind of like isekai, like portal fantasy. I kind of like Stargate, that kind of stuff. So I combined like a bunch of stuff, but the core is very like the outset was like, I want to do like cool special forces dudes with like the 4-2 fucking night vision goggles and like tricked out M4s, like shooting orcs in the face, like, so I would call that modern.
yeah no, it's awesome. But and like I said, it was just one of those things where I was like thinking like does this count? Like I have like Inspectors, right? And this is Ghostbusters. Like, and I was thinking, like, is this does this count? Like, is this modern or is this sci-fi? You know?
I think modern is kind of defined by the technology level.
Yeah.
So
So where's the cutoff? Like,
for me personally, it's like it's usually around kind of like World War II. Yeah. So World War II up until like now, it's kind of
this is modern.
I would say it's modern. Yeah. It's because like.
So what about?
Yeah.
So where are you, Vic, with Twilight 2000?
Oh no, that's definitely modern because it was intended. Because that's also the intent behind it. Because when it came out, it was intended to be modern. Like it came out in the 80s or whatever. The first one came out, I think. But at that point, it was the cutting edge. Like all the weapons, that is described. Cutting edge stuff.
But it's future.
Yeah, but it was it's like near future. That's like.
Yeah, it wasn't far future. It was near future.
Right. Right. 20 years or so. Right. Yeah. No, I get it. I'm just wondering where those guidelines are. I mean, do you guys agree with that? Like World War II to like 10 years in the future? Like, is that
I don't. Definition? I wouldn't count World War II as modern at this point because to me,
where's
So World War II, so 1939 is almost 100 years ago. So if you're going to say that's modern, then I have to say the year 2100 is modern because it's like the same amount of time forward. And to me, like that's not
every cyberpunk game.
Yeah, something set in 2100 is not modern. Obviously that's a little bit unfair because of the exponential increase in technology, et cetera. So like every 10 years forward that you go is exponentially sort of feels more futuristic than every 10 years that you move backwards.
Sure.
But I think that's fair. Like I think you'd say World War II is not distant ancient history either. So it's, I wouldn't say that's wrong. For me that I think World War II for me feels like a genre unto itself almost.
Yes, agreed.
If you say I'm playing a World War II game, to me, the genre you're playing is a war game, and the setting is like the recent past, but it's not like today.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe the age of the person you asked might define like what, maybe that's plays into that, right? Because I think if you ask, my son like what's modern, he's probably not going to say the 1980s, but like that feels modern to me based on the age that I am. So
for me the cutoff point is more like is it like straight up like realistic World War II, then it's modern. It's like was one of the first modern wars, blah blah blah. If it's like you're adding like weird stuff and mechas and stuff, then you get diesel punk, and that's not quite modern. I don't know, I'm weird like that, but
yeah. So Matt, where's your line where like is it like the 60s, the 70s?
Yeah, 80s? I think it's the 60s because I feel like a lot of I think it's pretty easy to look backwards at most of even our technology and most of the state of most of the major players in the world and fairly easily grok what takes you from now back to like the 60s. And then I think as you push past that, like the 1930s world that set up World War II to me is like a completely different world than the world that we live in today. And so that's why I think, like, for me, like the 40s into the 50s feels like sort of one of those pivot points where, like, in my mind, when I think about history, there's like a line that I draw there where, like, there's the order of the world sort of before World War II, then there's World War II, then there's a bunch of resettling that happens in the 10, 15 years after that. And then in a large part, there's a lot of stability that happens in the world from the 60s to today. So not in technology and not in a lot of things, but in the general players and structure and order of the world, like a lot of the general structure and order of the world as we understand it today goes back to that time period.
To the 60s.
I think it's even safe to say, I mean, this is obviously stretching it a little bit, but if you look at it today, what's going on with Iran and the way the war is being fought, we may be sitting right on the line of where modern begins, because everything prior to this was fought differently. The fact that these wars are being fought almost wholly with drones at this point.
So when you say that, I just want to clarify, Mike, because you said that's where modern begins. You really mean you're saying that that's where modern?
I'm saying if you no. There's modern day can't ever be future.
Well, right.
When will then be now?
I'm just saying, like, if you look at World War II and say that's too far back to be modern. I mean, if we were sitting in the 70s during Vietnam, maybe we'd say, oh, that's modern gaming. Maybe today you could say Vietnam is, but just in the near future, we're going to look back at the way the world's become now, and modern's going to have a new definition. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that agrees with what Matt said, where like 10 years, I forget how you worded it, Matt, but like 10 years is like twice as further ahead than you were 10 years back or what. I don't know. That's kind of how you worded it, but sorry, Vic, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. For me, there's a slight difference between like what I would say modern and what I would call like contemporary. So contemporary is like stuff that's like exactly now. So what, like you say,
cutting
like,
edge.
Modern for me is like anything from like the latter half of the 20th century up until kind of like rough, like now. It's like you could easily take blacklight, strip away some of the items, and you could run it in Vietnam. You could run it in like Korea. You could probably run it in World War II, and it would will still work pretty well. Like all the rules would make sense. Machine guns exist. Sniper rifles exist. Like even back in World War II, you had the beginnings of the technology that we're using now. You had like very rudimentary like night vision scopes, like all that stuff. You had like tanks were starting to be developed like properly. So that's why I say like World War II is kind of like for me is still kind of counts as modern. So
sure. What so where are you at, Jason?
I think a lot of it is more genre defining than era defining.
Okay.
Cowboys and Indians is modern in that they're using firearms versus swords. Cavalrymen still carried swords, but you didn't charge into battle with a sword. You had a rifle. And then, early 1900s, you start seeing the automobile. Yeah, I see you shaking your head, but really for me, it's that technological line.
And so guns.
Guns, but then you have to define the gun. I mean, we can't, the musketeers were around in the 1600s, but they're certainly not modern.
They were still carrying swords on horses and stuff. Yeah.
Right. But so you have to go into the modern fire. Once you start seeing repeating firearms, that changes the battlefield completely. And so for me, I wouldn't say the Civil War was modern.
Right.
It's modern compared to, 900s
so that's
fantasy.
That's World War II.
What? The Civil War is not World War II.
No. Where repeating firearms and stuff. I mean,
no.
World War One.
No,
World War One. Well, I guess World War One. Right?
Actually, the early stuff started being developed right after the Civil War. It just kind of sucked. You started getting the Henry rifle. The lever action that's considered a repeater. But if you're talking about full semiotic weapons.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's where I went when you said repeating. I went to
that's
like a semi-automatic.
World War One. They had machine guns in the trenches. The Maxim machine gun killed more people than anything at the time. That was German. So that kind of defines a more modern setting. But for me, it's the firearm or the automobile common in this area, then it's modern. When you go past that and you start doing space travel and ray guns, even if you, like I was thinking about Shadowrun
right.
It's a modern game. It takes place 50 years in the future, but the sword is still commonly used, but that's just because of the fantasy aspect of it. But so you've got pre-repeater firearms and vehicles, automobiles, up to space travel and ray guns. So for me, that's kind of how it breaks down. But then everything breaks down to like little subcategories. I can be playing a Civil War battle reenactment, or I can be doing World War One. But also World War One was 1913 to 1919, something like that. So now we're creeping into like Call of Cthulhu era and gangsters.
I was going to say that. What
about I was just going to get at this because
there you go.
If you look at 20s or 30s, you still have firearms, you still have automobiles.
Right. Yeah, and we've got the radio, the telephone. Not a mobile phone, but you can stop at any corner and use a payphone.
But if you base it on their own definitions, this is not modern because they have modern Cthulhu,
right,
which is set in modern day.
Right. But also the one you're holding up is Pulp Cthulhu. And what do you think of when you say pulp? 1930s gangster era. That is pulp.
Well,
however, before the 1930s pulp era, there was the 1890s pulp era. It was the great cowboys of the West, the gunslingers. That was Pulp Fiction. That was the origins of Pulp Fiction. So that's why I say for me, I've got like three broad categories. There's fantasy, early modern, and then modern, up, off into space. But then all that stuff breaks down into much smaller eras.
Yeah.
And now I'm hooked on, my gangsters 1930s. For me that's gangsters is a separate genre. But although it takes place in the 20s and 30s, actually into the 40s, you still have World War One, so that's a separate thing. World War II is a separate thing. After that, you've got Korea. I'm talking about as far as American military involvement. You've got Korea, but nobody really thinks about that. We go from World War II, we forget about Korea and go into Vietnam. And for me, Vietnam was my thing. I was born in 71, so I was born at the tail end of Vietnam. My dad was in the military then. My grandfather was in Vietnam, so I was always surrounded with that. So I don't really think about World War II or Korea. For me, I focus on Vietnam. And one of the games that Vic mentioned was Twilight 2000, and that's one of the ones I had on my list. For me, that's absolutely modern. And the original came out in I think 84, and the Americans are using the M16. They're still using the M1 carbine. Sometimes they've got the M15 as well. All the Russians are using AK-47s, and and the whole eastern area is using AKs. But the modern version of Twilight 2000 is, it's the World War III that never was. So you see the M16A4 or the M4A1, you see modern versions of that 1980s firearm being introduced. So it just continues to modernize itself. You asked. Yeah, that's what I got.
No, you're right. So there's a couple comments here that I just want to take. Edgelord, you're 100% right. It comes to no surprise to anyone. No surprise. No surprise there.
I'm not sure that which one Edgewater was agreeing with, because I was really starting to go off there.
Stephen Kennedy. Yeah,
yes.
And then Death Angel isn't modern Cthulhu, basically Delta Green. So they're different. They're definitely different play styles. And Mike put that in the chat. It's definitely like Call of Cthulhu. No matter what era you're doing, it's always like you're investigating the cult and trying to figure out who's trying to summon Cthulhu or what awful things coming or whatever.
Yeah.
Study the occult stuff. Whereas Delta Green, you're on the military.
The only reason you don't have any further, Delta Green that's set further back is because the whole Delta Green organization started in the Vietnam era. So you pretty much go from there forward. Where Call of Cthulhu, you have your 20 stuff, your 30 stuff, and then modern.
Yep.
Well, when they wrote it was also kind of like inspired by like the X-Files and stuff like that. That was like huge back then. So
sure. The mode. So Delta Green, you can play as a civilian, but it's generally people from law enforcement and the military who either are currently in it or were in the past and are recruited into Delta Green. Their mission is to suppress the unnatural and make sure it does not break out to the general population.
Well,
Call of Cthulhu,
one little thing though, you're right about the whole objective, but the whole thing about being military or whatever, they only make up very few of the professions in there. If there's 20 professions in Delta Green, only 3 or 4 of them are military or law enforcement based.
No, there's
the rest are scientists. They're scientists. They're historians.
Sure. They specifically detail literally every option down to like Coast Guard and National Parks Rangers. It's like literally every branch of the government is an option in that game. But be that as it may, we're splitting hairs a little bit. The point is, your goal in Delta Green is generally not, hey, let's find out what's going on, or hey, I'm an everyman that got pulled into something weird. You have a mission, which is to suppress the unnatural. In Call of Cthulhu, a lot of those stories are you are just the everyman, or you're an investigator, right? That's what it's called, the investigator's guide. What's going on? Oh no, I've lost my mind and summoned an elder god, right? It's a very different vibe. In addition to the time period being different, modern Call of Cthulhu is still, I'm just a dude and weird things are happening. Let me find out what's going on, versus Delta Green, which is just kind of a different mode.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think for myself going into this, like I considered modern starting in like the 80s, like that. that's kind of like my cutoff.
So,
Like
the advent of personal computers and
yeah,
and things
yeah,
like
sort of that
Sure.
stuff, and then
Pocket
ending
calculators.
basically like, tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? So like, what obviously whatever's going on in the world or whatever, but like Twilight 2000, I don't like Twilight 2000 for me doesn't cross the line of being like future, even though it is, it's like it's happening like now, or soon enough where it's still modern to me, and it's not like post-apocalyptic because it's kind of during that kind of apocalyptic kind of thing, So, if it was like 10 years after or 20 or whatever after the nukes or whatever, like then it's a post-apocalyptic game. I don't consider it modern. But that's sort of like my guide rails, and I don't know. That's just kind of how it feels to me. Like I think about World War II or like Vietnam or Jason, you mentioned Korea and stuff, and it's like I don't know. And maybe it's because I wasn't around for that stuff, and where so to me, like I wasn't here for it, so it not that it didn't happen, right? But like you get people nowadays that were born after 9/11, and like my daughter and stuff. She was born in 2013.
It was 25 years ago, right, Roger?
So, yeah, right. Well, yeah, absolutely. But what I mean is like that's not that far long. That's not that really like too long ago.
Yeah, but it was half your life ago.
Right. No, I understand that. But there's like people now where it seems like it's even further back than that because it was like before they were born. So it's like past, history. So I like, for them, I think modern is newer. Did I just cut out?
You want to hear a mind-blowing stat?
We all did.
You want to hear a mind-blowing stat, Roger?
No.
What percentage of human beings alive today do you think were born after 9/11?
Oh my God. This is going to be ridiculous.
It's almost half.
I was going to say like
almost half. Yeah.
I was going to say like 60, but yeah.
45%.
Wow, yeah.
Wow, is it 45 really?
45, yeah.
Wow, I was lucky.
Well, that's what the first Google result said, so who knows.
Yeah, how many days after 9/11 did JFK get shot?
Yeah.
Right, but it's a joke, right? But to kids or whatever nowadays, like they might as well be in the same time period.
Yeah.
Right, because they're in the modern era, but before me, so it doesn't matter, I guess.
I'll tell you another way I think about this, because one of the things that's my lens for this is maybe less military, because I think it was a good point about how, and remember, it's not a war, it's an excursion or whatever we're calling it. But this battle that's going on with Iran is definitely different. And it's building on what we saw in Ukraine. Right. So, but, prior to that, I think a lot of the weapons tech was sort of building in a straight line on top of things that had been before. But like, if you think about what's the name of that ride in, what is it, the Magic Kingdom in Tomorrowland? They have that old ride that they do, the World of Tomorrow or whatever.
Tomorrowland.
Yeah. There's this rotating thing from the World's Fair or whatever. And
right.
It like keeps skipping ahead like 20 or 40 years. And it's interesting to me. The last time I saw that, it really struck me how many appliances and things like that for the house. Like if you saw that in your house,
kitchen of tomorrow,
you would have no idea what that stuff was even for. Like we have moved so far past the purpose of appliances from like the 20s that you wouldn't even know what they were for today. So that's part of my lens for that is how far back would you have to go where if you had a cell phone, somebody could sort of wrap their brain around it, right? Because once you get to the point where you go, what do you mean a satellite? Then you're basically, you have a magic item at that point.
Yeah. Well, there's some point in human history where like you go back and you mention satellite and it's like it's almost like a bad thing because it's like it's Sputnik or whatever. It's what I mean. The Russians
that was early science fiction was always talking about launching rockets to Alpha Centauri 4.5 light years away. And or just launching satellites. The iRobot series, they talk about that as being like that's far future. The automated vehicles on the roads and all that. And here we are. We have automated. They crash and kill people more often than not, but we have them. And yeah, and satellites. You can look up at a clear night, and there's more satellites than stars in your view. So, I think that's a great point, Matt.
Well,
that's a really big cutoff.
I think we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit because at this point we're more talking about the definition of modern as like a standalone like thing and not in the context of RPGs.
Right.
In the context of RPGs, you should be thinking about how the rules can be utilized. There's no rules in most RPGs for juicers or microwaves, so I don't care what microwaves were like in the 1940s versus now, like in the context of RPGs. Yeah. So,
Jason,
in the context,
roll
that was my next supplement, Vic.
Yeah,
just kitchen appliances.
So in the context,
if you're gonna keep keeping us on topic like that, I don't think you're gonna be a good fit for this group.
No, but so in the context of RPGs, though, I can take something like Savage Worlds, and I can just as easily use the same rules to run it in the 1920s or 30s as I can do it in like the 90s, which I've done, as I can do it now. So for me, like Savage Worlds is like a great like modern RPG because it has all the rules you need for like fully automatic weapons, basic technology that existed in the 20th century up till now. So that's what I kind of consider like modern in the context of RPGs. In the context of modern as a definition, then I agree. Modern is probably like like where we are now.
No, and that's definitely a good distinction of will a modern genre RPG system like Blacklight, right? Mm-hmm. Can you run it with like how far back can you go to run it? Obviously, if you were to try and run it, with ancient times, the game's different. Now I'm sure there might be enough melee weapons in there or whatever, but now you're almost converting back to Shadow Dark at that point.
Well, it's like if I wanted to World War II, like I said, if I want to wanted to World War II, all the weapon rules they just work as they do now.
Everything's the same, right?
All I've had to do, all the things I would have to do is maybe remove some of the the side equipment, but otherwise I can run it perfectly in World War II. If I want to run it during the Civil War, well, personally I would probably want like slightly different weapon rules, more leading into like black powder and like all that stuff. So it wouldn't work as well. So that's kind of like where I. It's been a while. Yeah, it's back on print.
It's definitely back. I'm putting the link to his to the Scrying Dutchman's drive-through.
Yeah, thank you.
Right there for you. No, Vic, I think that's a great point. And then that's something that I didn't. I never looked at it through the lens of, I always looked at it of like, what do I consider modern? And not the lens of, will this, how far back can we run this game?
Yeah.
Which is I think fantastic because it's
and how much forward too. Like Blacklight you could take into like kind of like cyberpunky territory pretty easily, I think, with some of the equipment I have in there.
It's interesting.
At least near future, so
you can do that until we come up with something that won't work with the rules, right? And then that's sort of the cutoff.
I'd sort of give you another way that I think about this is if you think about all the people that are currently alive and you bell curve out the year that they were born in, you sort of cut off the oldest, call it 10% or 20%. That time period encompasses most people that are currently alive. So to me, that's the modern era. Yeah. And I think that's partially why I sort of cut it off when I do is, somebody who's 80, fine, you're born in the 40s, but you don't remember the 40s, right? So probably most of them, and the ones that are now you're getting into a much smaller percentage of how many people are alive. So I could be convinced that you go all the way back to World War II. But obviously every year the number of people who are alive that lived through World War II is precipitously falling off. But that's a part of the way I think about modernity as a time period is like the people who are alive today, most of them are living in the modern era by definition. And as you push past that in either direction, you're moving out of modern.
If you want to narrow it down more, I can agree with probably like the 80s, because even younger people, they know the 80s to osmosis. They've watched Stranger Things. They've watched like all this stuff that's like all the 80s nostalgia stuff. Same with the 90s nostalgia stuff. So I'm willing to like be like 80s up until now is like modern. So,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my kids are both my daughter's in her first year of college. My son's just graduating high school here next month, and they've had the '80s beat down their throats by me. They know the '80s well. They know the music. They know the movies. They know the games. They know all that.
Yeah, I'm from the '80s, and I remember the Berlin Wall coming down as a kid. So
Yeah, me too. Another thing I thought about that that I wrote down, and I think Jason mentioned it earlier, but what about something like James Bond, or like the Spycraft RPG? He got a big shitty grin on his face, but like to me, like I don't even think of that as modern, because
I do,
because the gadgets, yeah, but like. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I've watched too many of the movies or whatever. Like he's got an invisible car, and it was like a self-driving car, which I know we have self-driving cars now, but like all like the extra gadgets and gizmos and stuff that he had. That's like future.
Well,
is it?
I have to fight against that. That invisible car technology is real.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many cars I can't see on the road.
That's not what I'm saying.
I know.
But the technology that was used, it was used cameras and photo reflectors. That is real technology. Yeah. And I think James Bond is absolutely modern. But you specifically mentioned Spycraft, and that's what made me smile, because earlier today when you and I were talking, I asked what today's topic was, and you told me, and I was like, oh, what's the name of that RPG I used to play? Because I wanted to talk about Spycraft, and I couldn't remember the name of it.
Oh, Spycraft.
No, it was Spycraft.
Spycraft.
Yeah,
I love Spycraft. So I really wanted to talk about it. For me, that's totally modern. But even other games like Ninjas and Super Spies, Palladium's Ninjas and Super Spies, it's still modern. But it incorporates sci-fi as well. There's eyeballs with laser guns in them and stuff like that. Clearly not real technology as far as we know. But the setting itself is the 80s and 90s. It's a modern RPG with some sci-fi thrown in it. But Spycraft, I mean, it's modern RPG. I don't recall there being any absolutely ridiculous technology that was just preposterous. The James Bond stuff, the over-the-top technology was meant to be fun. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously, but it's still modern by any definition, I think.
Yeah, if you have to exclude like all the weird stuff, then you have to exclude like urban fantasy. You have to exclude Blacklight because I have laser guns and I have like weird gadgets that don't really exist in real life, as far as I know. Who knows what's in Area 51? But so.
Yeah, James Bond's gadgets are near future things that are they don't feel magical. They're not so advanced that you feel like, well, in 20 years we might have this. And in a lot of cases we did. Yeah. So
okay. Yeah. All right. No, I can see that. Yeah.
So one of my questions here is, when you talk about modern games, I've always sort of thought of modern as more of a setting than a genre.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
I did not say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
So, and I think Victor was kind of hinting at that earlier about, you could have modern as a setting, but so when you talk about Twilight 2000, it's an alternate future war game that is in the modern setting.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I guess at this point it's almost the recent past setting, but it's still in modern times.
Yeah. No, I could see that. And maybe me saying genre is wrong or whatever, not, perfect.
I don't know that it is though. I think there are games that sort of make that it's always going to be mixed with something like Kids on Bikes or there are games that sort of, that's the point, is that it's like you're in today's world. Certainly there's a part, it's a little bit, it crosses over, but I think primarily where I anchor modern is this is a setting, and then it can sort of be part of a genre. It's part of what makes a genre is the modern setting combined with something.
Well, let's close this one up, and we'll come back next week and we'll do the modern setting.
Well, but there's a lot to talk about modern gaming and how you approach it and what's uniquely challenging about it. Like, I'll give you one sort of weird random example. There's an actual play that I like. I was watching that did a kind of interesting gangster Call of Cthulhu. Like I think it was a 3 or 4 part series, and it was set in the 20s, and they were having conversation in game and character, and they started talking about the Knicks. And like that instantly took me out of it because I'm like, whoa, the NBA doesn't exist in the 1920s. The Knicks haven't been created yet. Right now, they're Brits. Like they don't. I mean, whatever. I don't know that the average American knows, when the Knicks were created and they predate the NBA. But one of my challenges with Call of Cthulhu in
I
the
have no idea
30s is this constant thing of having to ask, like, wait, did that thing exist then?
yeah.
And so to me, that's part of why I say that's probably from when I think about modern, why it predates modern. Because if I constantly have to ask, like, wait, did windshield wipers exist then? Like, wait, could you call like a different state then from a payphone? Like how, like, how did operators work? Like it's a whole different, like, could you call an ambulance? Was there 911? Like what, there's all these things that we sort of take for granted that you can go back a certain number of years and feel fairly confident that things still function the same. And then once you start to get past that, to me, it doesn't feel like modern anymore. And as those questions kind of exponentially increase, I sort of feel like that pushes back more and more on the idea of if it's modern or not.
Yeah, Paul says some modern genre games on the 10. I figured we'd be talking about genres. I guess it's more about modern. Yeah. Maybe poor phrasing on my part. I'll
it's weird because if we're talking just modern games, as in mechanics and whatnot, I kind of feel like modern games and modern mechanics are not in the wheelhouse of a lot of people on this channel. I don't. I mean, I know a lot of people play different games, but it seems to be.
You're talking about newer systems.
I mean, like if you want to talk about a game that has modern mechanics, seems to be well received, the modern mechanics and a modern setting. Look at something like Outgunned.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Okay,
yeah.
But I don't think that would be a game that you would like, Roger. You might. I don't think Jason would like it at all.
Yeah,
because
is that the one that the Italians wrote and it was produced by Free League?
Yes.
You are correct. I looked at it, I read through it, and I put it back down. I saw it at I think PAX Unplugged a couple years ago, and I saw it, and I was like, well, Free League has given it their thumbs up, so I read through it, and I was like, not for me, and I set it back down.
Now I looked at it, and I said, this looks like it would be a great game for just a one shot in between something else. Like you're missing some people, and you just want to run something quick 1 week. It would be a great game for that.
Sure.
Yeah, I have the book, I think.
And I think it's got that. It definitely captures the cinematic feel. But that's kind of what I was getting at. When you start talking about modern mechanics, they veer away from the standard D20 that we all grew up on. They really do. Most of them do. Yeah. And that's where you start losing people because there's
sure, because they're so used to it or whatever. That's
right.
what they.
Right,
because that's what they were brought up playing, and that's what was there, and that's all that there was for the movie. Even though that's really not true either. I hear that a lot from people that say that's all there was back then was like the D20 system or whatever. But I mean, you had Traveler pretty early on, and there were a bunch of D10 games and D6 pool games.
Yeah, high school games.
But I grew up playing with a crap ton of people, and I could tell you now, nobody really played much other than D&D. I don't know anybody who played Call of Cthulhu back in the day, and that's been around just as long. I do remember a small group of people that got into like vampire and werewolf. They were weird as fuck.
Yes,
they just were. They were. It wasn't. It was just a different group of people, and it wasn't
vampire modern. Modern.
It is. It's on my list too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Chthonic Musing says, how many categories do we have? There's probably an infinite number of categories we can come up with. But if Indiana Jones type game is not modern, what is it? So that I consider a pulp.
Yeah, pulp is a genre of modern, in my opinion.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
right.
I was going to say modern pulp. That's exactly right.
Yeah. I would. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're splitting hairs. But like I would call that a pulp game, and like I said, if it was from the 80s,
to me it's
I would call it modern.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty much set the same era of Call of Cthulhu. You're set in the 30s.
Yeah, but I mean,
which I don't think is modern. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I call that pulp. I mean, I know you guys disagree with Matt and I on that. I mean, you guys are way earlier on the thing.
I'm fine. I'm fine with putting the God off at like 80s.
So think about Indiana Jones is purposely evoking and is set up entirely in its visual and auditory style to be a throwback to a previous time.
Yes.
Even when it was made in the 80s and 90s. It is intentionally designed to make you think about an era that feels different than the quote unquote current day era.
Yeah.
So to me, that isn't modern. I mean, like we want to say like, oh, well, in the history of the cosmos, the entirety of humanity is on the fingernail of the thing. Like it's all just splitting hairs and semantics. But I think if you're talking about genres and styles, it is purposely trying to not feel modern. It's like designed to not feel that way. Yeah, so like and you're right. Like pulp is sort of a subgenre of. I guess what I'm saying to me is it sits sort of like right on that bubble. Like the 20s to World War II, sort of like to me are not they're not modern because they have genres that exist unto themselves. It's sort of like cowboys and Indians and westerns. Like that's a genre. It's not that far back in the past,
right?
But
it's Western.
Evoking certain settings, styles, types of play. I think pulp games are emulating something specific, a time period and a style that doesn't feel modern to me.
And I wouldn't call it modern pulp. Like I would just call it a pulp game or a Western game. Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't say, oh, it's modern Western, modern. Sure. You know what I mean? Because everybody kind of knows. What that is. So to me,
it's a Western. If you say I'm playing a Western, everybody knows exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, right. Like late 1800s, early 1900s, right? You've got revolvers and horses and lassos, right? I mean, this is my
you're
okay.
right.
No,
I would go 1870 to about 1905.
Okay, yeah, so close, yeah. All right, sorry, I'm not used to everybody like nodding their head and agreeing with me at the same time. I didn't know what was happening.
I disagree.
No. Everybody's like, yeah, and I'm like, wait,
we're just trying to get you to stop talking.
Yeah,
I figured we'll agree enough.
He'll run out of gas eventually.
I don't know. Modern is such a vague term, and at the end of the day, it all boils down to subgenres anyway. So
sure.
Because there's a massive difference between doing an urban fantasy game versus doing like Call of Duty the RPG,
Yeah. So what is urban fantasy? Like what? Like when I think urban fantasy,
Shadowrun.
I mean, I think Shadowrun. So I think that as being modern, but also can go, pretty decent click into the future.
So for me, Shadowrun, it's cyberpunk first, and the urban fantasy is kind of like tagged onto that. Mm-hmm. When I think like pure urban fantasy, I think something like Supernatural, the TV show, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The Dresden Files, Monster Hunter International, like that to me is like pure like distilled like urban fantasy without any other like stuff added in.
Yeah, that stuff I just kind of call like Monster of the Week. You know what I mean?
Which I love.
Which is actually a game.
Yeah.
Well,
which is
World
actually
of Darkness.
A game.
Yeah.
Right.
World of Darkness is like just, pure urban fantasy. Like it's from the outset meant to be like this supernatural stuff secretly exists alongside our like normie real world, and if you scratch the surface, all of a sudden there's vampires and werewolves and weird shit. So that's urban fantasy.
Shadowrun isn't very futuristic anymore. I don't know.
It's retro futuristic.
Yeah, it's retro futuristic. I mean, and there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff running around.
Is Harry Potter?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, I would put Harry Potter into urban fantasy. They don't really delve too much, but so for me, what defines urban fantasy is that like divide between the normal world versus the supernatural, and kind of like the clash and like kind of like bleeding over. And Harry Potter doesn't like address that too much. Well, but it's not the main focus. The main focus is Harry Potter at school with other wizards, and Muggles occasionally get mentioned. But for the most
part, in a fantasy world, you're in a fantasy world for the most part.
But for the most part, they don't really delve too much in that clash between the Muggle world Like what would make Harry Potter more urban fantasy, in my opinion, is if like the Muggle government starts responding to Voldemort. If all of a sudden SAS units are like fighting Death Eaters, that would make it more urban fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, so Shellbacks is high fantasy in a modern setting. I don't even. I mean, I get why you're saying modern setting, but like when it comes to Harry Potter, like I see that as fantasy. Like I know it's in modern day, but kind of like what Vic is saying, like those worlds don't really bleed over. Like everybody exists and they're in the modern world. They're not.
I don't know. They kind of do.
But...
Like I don't know if I agree with that. I think they kind of do. I think there's a lot of parts of it that I mean, yeah, it's more like the start and end of a lot of them, or like certain scenes. But you know, you've got like they're taking a like a train or a bus or a flying car. Like, and what does that look like? There's definitely scenes where there's like things, there's overlap, and that's definitely different than like Dark Sun or Dragonlance or Greyhawk. Like it's clearly
I was more talking like the books. If you look at the books, like the whole urban fantasy aspect isn't really the focus. It's kind of like
it's not the focus. No, but, I 100% agree with you.
But in an RPG context, for example, I could definitely see like a really cool adventure where it's like Muggles dealing with the fallout of like, you know, the Wizarding War, like stuff like that, and that would make it like really urban fantasy. So yeah,
with the bleed over, Chubby, thanks for joining us.
So I'll give you. Have you guys read Nine Princes in Amber?
It sounds familiar, so I probably have at some point.
So I think the first book's from the 60s or 70s, maybe early 70s, but it starts out in modern time and it becomes kind of a high fantasy.
Is that when like technology stops working and they have to go back to boats?
No, it's so Amber is a fantasy series about these princes that are part of the family that come from the one true world, of which all other worlds are sort of alternate reality shadows. And so the main character and narrator gets his memory erased and is banished to Earth, the Earth that we live on, and then sort of comes to realize that he's not from here, and then assembles like an army and marches back through the shadows to get back to Amber. But that's like sort of a fantasy book that starts in the modern world. Like he wakes up in a hospital, like a mental hospital, like in today. But
it's a fantasy. I mean, I get that it starts in the modern world or whatever, but it's a fantasy. Like I don't consider that modern at all.
No, but I guess my point is kind of like Harry Potter. It's an interesting. There's a subgenre there where they are starting you. Yeah. Yes, correct. They are starting you in a modern current. Like Harry Potter starts out in like just modern day England and becomes something else. Like it's. So there's a certain subgenre of fantasy there that sort of starts out in the modern world and then takes you somewhere else.
Yeah. I think that's part of what I never really liked about Shadowrun. I've wanted to try it several times. I never liked the fact that it's set in a modern / futuristic setting, but the fantasy's mixed into it,
and also dumped all of D&D on top of it. Yeah.
Right.
I agree
because they were like, hey, let's make this, but then we'll. I don't know. I mean, like I prefer something like Deadlands, where you have the Weird West, but 99% of the population doesn't know about the weird stuff. You know, the weird stuff.
Well, you know. Don't they like they're mining like magical
coal? Ghost rock. You're right. There's ghost rock and whatever.
Like there's all sorts of stuff.
Right. All sorts of shit happen to the world, but then it kind of when you start playing the game, it's kind of settled down to the you don't have the four horsemen going through destroying the world or anything anymore. So it's little things like even when you're playing it, when characters start out and they see something like a giant spider comes out and eats these cattle, you know, they're terrified. You know, it's a horrific thing because this is not normal.
Well,
You know,
maybe
it-
it's the way I played these games, but I played a lot of Shadowrun, and the supernatural stuff was still pretty terrifying, even though it was like kind of like part of like normal life.
Yeah,
Even if I am like a street samurai, a giant spider coming out of the sewer is pretty terrifying. I'm sorry.
how terrifying can it be when you're the guy next to you fighting is an ogre or an orc or a troll or whatever the hell?
Well, you watch this giant spider bite his head off. Like, I was like,
Yeah. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
I don't like mixing the modern with the fantasy unless it's like with Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green. It's behind the scenes. It's not something that's just out in your face all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
I don't
it's
mind.
my
I like both.
preference. It's my preference. I want to like Shadowrun. I've wanted it several times now. I've been like, I'm going to try
Thank you,
it,
Agile.
and then I start reading it and I see the races, and I'm like,
My only problem with Shadowrun in that regard is that like orcs, elves, all that stuff are just like mutated, like magically mutated humans. Like I would have enjoyed it more if like a portal opened and it just dumped like all this stuff in the world, and now they're like refugees, kind of like alien nation adapting to like this this other like this cyberpunk world that they have like no understanding of. But like in Shadowrun, it's just like, oh, I woke up one day and now I'm like a goblin. Like, okay, well,
That's interesting. A lot of the population in Shadowrun doesn't understand magic. Races don't have their own languages.
I feel like
didn't realize
That's
that.
not entirely true, but it's mostly true. I would largely agree with that statement. The elves have their own language, but really it's just an offshoot of Gaelic, and they decided this is Elvish, and they kind of tacked it on to their own people.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and which is a consequence of like they were all originally humans, and like the whole now they have pointy ears or green skin, but it's kind of just like an affectation. They have to like make up the whole own culture around it. Yeah. Well, something like Bright, like that Will Smith movie, like orcs, elves, they were like their own thing since ancient times.
Yeah.
And that's so and it's basically just a fantasy world where now it's the 20th century or 21st century.
Well, I feel like we talked about this a little bit at one of the other ones that I was on. I mean, cyberpunk, I feel like is its own genre.
Absolutely.
It's a near modern setting, but it's its own genre.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The thing about it though is when you go back and look at a lot of the things that far future people thought about cyberpunk, a lot of that stuff has happened. The whole thing about like corporation and conglomeration of corporations and like the power of the super rich and end stage capitalism, like a lot of the stuff that informed the thinking that went into that, like we are living in now. So a lot of that feels like, oh yeah, I'm sort of living this world because this is the world I live in. But I still think
we just got to have some more advancements in cybernetics. I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, like we have VR headsets, right?
No, we're
like
getting there.
Yeah, I mean,
We're
that's what I
getting there,
mean. Like but I still think all the stuff that goes into that, there's a lot of trappings of that genre that make it its own thing. It's just that it kind of was born out of the 80s. And so now we're 40 years past that and we just caught up to a lot of it. I know we had that joke earlier about, the original Cyberpunk was 6 years ago. It's the same with Blade Runner, right? It's like the things in Alien, right? We're like these things that are 40, 50 years old, we are now passing them in time. And it happened with original sci-fi stuff too, like Asimov and all this stuff. Like we have moved, unfortunately, time doesn't slow down. We just keep moving past these things. So
I know we've recently found some aliens now too. I guess.
Sure.
So for me, what defines cyberpunk, what I consider cyberpunk, is kind of like more the retro futuristic aspect. Like what did people in the 80s picture the future like?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got like chicks with poofy hair and like wires coming out of her head, and she's like using like a big Magnum pistol and like wearing like fishnet stockings and stuff like that. So we don't see that. Like we might have like some of the futuristic tech, but we don't have hot elf chicks and fishnet stockings.
Well, yeah. If
You've never been to New York City.
Yeah, have you ever been to San Diego Comic-Con? I beg to differ with you, sir.
If you look at some of the old Shadowrun art, they definitely have the women have 80s hair. It's
sure.
They just it was the same style they had that day. They just colored it and did whatever with it, and that was their art.
Yeah. I don't really like when they try to update cyberpunk to like the current aesthetic. Like I hate when cyberpunk is all of a sudden like shiny white, like smooth Apple stuff. Like no. Cyberpunk to me is like, grimy. There's wires running across the alleys. There's like chicks with poofy hair, like
Yeah.
So
It's the punk
And
part of
maybe
it.
it's because I grew up then, but I always liked the future 80s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like that's why I like drawn to like the like Alien and those
Well,
kind of things and that
Yeah,
kind of
the
cyberpunk.
retrofuturism is a pretty cool thing. It's part of like
Yeah.
why Fallout is so cool. It's like what if 50s, but
Right.
future. Like there's
But it's retro future. It's not modern.
Yeah. So sadly, like Cyberpunk in a lot of ways has become retrofuturism because it's
Yeah.
it's 80s stuff put forward in time 50 years, and now we
Yeah.
are in that time
Yeah.
period, and some of that stuff has happened, and a lot of the fashion stuff obviously is not here
Yeah.
anymore. So
Cyberpunk is very tied to the era that it was like invented in. So
Agile, we kind of covered this in like the first hour, but
yeah.
so we're at odds whether we start in the 20s or the 60s.
I think we agreed that I'm right. I think that's the
I
position.
don't sure.
I know it's not actually Cyberpunk, but there was actually a recent show within the last couple of years that did anybody watch Andor, the first season?
yeah, Andor's
The-
great.
I
The-
did. I
the
heard it's
very-
really good. I
the
wanna
very
catch
big-
it.
I'm telling you, it's like the only good Star Wars thing that's been made in the
Yeah.
last 45
It
I
years.
believe you.
It is.
I'm not being sarcastic. I absolutely believe you. Everyone I've ever talked to has told me it's amazing.
Watch, go and binge
I
watch
hear you.
season 1, season 2, and then Rogue One,
Yeah.
and your life will be complete. But like that first episode starts on Morlana 1. It's a corporate-owned planet. To me, visually, that looks like a cyberpunk setting.
Mm.
You see everybody's walking around in their dark trench coats and seedy alleyways and all kinds of, it's just, it really is, to me, it feels like a cyberpunk setting. Obviously, it's not. It's Star Wars, but
Trench coats are never going to be not cool. So
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
even the vampires like them.
Yeah.
I'm
trench
just
coats
thinking
always be-
about the Matrix
cool.
now. Everybody wanted a trench coat, black boots, and really dark
Well,
sunglasses.
Well,
the trench
and
And
coats
those
and that
badass
with
Nokia
all the
phones that
shiny,
popped out the bottom.
the shiny
Awesome.
latex trench coats. I don't know. I think hopefully we've moved beyond those.
But a lot of that aesthetic goes back to the World of Darkness stuff, the original
Yeah.
Vampire.
Yeah.
And so, you're talking 92, 93.
Those
So-
awful VTM larpers.
Well, so I'm whatever 10ish years younger than the top row of this panel, right? So my experience of that game is probably pretty different than yours because in when Vampire got big, I was 14, and I could have easily played Vampire every day of the week for a number of years if I wanted to, and would have had a much harder time playing D&D, to be honest. So
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of cultural markers and things that, because a lot of the Matrix visual style is stuff that you saw in Vampire. So there's a lot of, crossover of and influence from that game. I might make the argument that it is probably the most successful modern RPG that I can think of. I don't think there's any modern set RPG that reached the level that game did in the 90s.
I would agree. It's definitely the most successful urban fantasy RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't think it does urban fantasy all that well, but that's like a personal opinion.
Yeah,
and
it's not.
that's like-
No, you're
yeah.
not wrong. You're not wrong. Games in that or settings in that universe that were meant to do that, like Hunter and some of those, were way less successful than Vampire. So,
Well-
like, you're right. Vampire's definitely not trying to tell that type of story. It does, but it's not what it was meant for.
Yeah.
And I think like Hunter is probably more meant to actually be that exact game.
Well, okay. Sidetrack real quick. Their problem with World of Darkness is that they made all the things like the werewolves, the vampires, the mages. They made them almost separate setting, and they don't really mix that well together.
Yep.
For me, urban fantasy is best when you're just a guy, you're going to a bar, and the bartender's a vampire. There's a werewolf sitting there. There's like a dwarf hanging out at the jukebox. There's an elf chick dancing on stage. And World of Darkness, like all that stuff doesn't really interact. Because most of those races and whatever, they hate each other too. So it's
They're all hiding. They're all hiding.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like,
Sure.
it doesn't really, there's no real cohesiveness. So yeah.
Agile Monk asks if any of these count as modern. I know we covered some of this. I'm not sure what Aftermath is. That
It's post-apocalyptic.
yeah, is that the thing with the mice?
No,
Or no, am I thinking of
no.
something else? Okay, I'm
There's
thinking of
lots
the
of mice
board
games,
game.
but I
Now.
don't think
That
it's
was
that one.
the Palladium game, you mean, with like the mutants?
Oh, right.
After,
okay.
after the bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, that was after the bomb. Okay. Top Secret, I think, is the only one that I know, like that I would consider modern. I don't know what Merc and Daredevils is.
Aftermath came out in 1981, actually.
Yeah, it says it's
Gamma World
post-apocalyptic.
is,
Yeah, it is.
is
Yeah, I would say no.
future, post-apocalyptic, Alien, Blade Runner, Shadowrun. I mean, that's all like, future tech stuff. So, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't count that.
That's
I'm looking at Paul's comment there about the Matrix. Totally agree. The 80s punk scene was a huge influence on them. And then blending into the 90s industrial scene, 9 Inch Nails, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, KMFDM and all that stuff.
I mean, you can watch the Matrix and you can practically see a 9 Inch Nails video on display there, which I have no problem with because that is my jam right there.
Mhm.
yeah, Vossen. That's like not
It's 19th
modern,
century,
though,
right?
right?
Yeah, it's
That's
late
like
19th century. I think.
same as Call of Cthulhu, right? Like 20s or something.
It's,
thought it
it's
was-
Victorian.
Or is it
I thought it was
late
earlier
1800s?
than that.
Or
Yeah,
Victorian.
Victorian,
I think.
Victorian.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Same
So-
style, though, I'm told.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. That's interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I don't consider that modern, but that's
Well,
that's kind of that.
at the end of the day, there's only one of
Yeah,
us who
fine.
writes modern RPGs here, so
Well, that's
So-
why we got Vic on the show. He's the so we can all argue with him. But
I'll give you another. This is to me like a classic when we talk about modern games. So the FFG End of the World series, those 4 books that they made.
yes, I
You
put
guys
that on
familiar
the
with
cover.
those? Yeah,
Yeah, that
Right.
was on the cover. Yeah.
where it's basically like you're today and you're playing yourself, and now aliens attack. Like that to me is like as modern as a game could possibly be. It's literally
there's
like you make a
alien
character
invasion,
that's you. Like Jason
Wrath
would
of
be
the
playing
Gods.
Jason. So like carpentry skills high,
And
low
Revolt of
charisma.
Nations.
You get the gist. I'm
Low
kidding.
charisma.
I did not get the only one
I'm just messing with you.
the only one I did not get was the zombie one. I
yeah.
like the character. I like the character creation in these.
It's cool.
Because you actually kind of stat your own self out,
Yeah, you're playing yourself.
and then
I wanna be
everyone
myself.
votes with dice, black and white dice, as to whether you're full of shit or not.
That is my favorite
So-
part of that.
So there's like one guy that's always like, oh, I got like a huge strength and all of this, and then everybody like votes him down, and so he drops it, but he gets like a bonus, like a strength feat, basically, that he can do, which is kind of neat. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well,
But
my,
I don't
my
wanna play
favorite
this.
is the plank of wood that insists her charisma is 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is not.
yeah. Keep an eye out for Paul's Kickstarter. Mouse Knights 3 OSR certified, Shadow Dark compatible, 5e for good measure.
Well, you're joking,
Yeah.
but there are actually multiple projects like that out right now. I've seen
We
them.
got. I'm making an OSR certified stamp. I went
Yeah.
into I created one, and we're gonna have that made. I'm gonna go around and stamp stuff. It's gonna be awesome.
So
So-
what about Walking Dead? Is that modern?
Yeah, definitely.
No,
It's zombie apocalypse.
I think it is.
Right.
It's modern.
it's
Why-
zombie
what-
apocalypse. What did you say the word
So-
apocalypse? Does that
How-
make it apocalypse?
Yeah, but
Apocalyptic?
apocalypse is a subset of modern.
Oh, okay.
How could you not call it modern?
I guess I guess Walking Dead is modern.
Right. So
I guess.
to me, there's a big
Yeah, it's
difference
modern.
between like Gamma
Yeah.
World and MCC
Right.
versus
Yeah.
like Walking Dead. Like Walking Dead is sort of not that different than Twilight 2000.
No.
It's a different
Right.
genre. It's not war. It's
It
apocalypse.
takes place today.
But yeah, it's now.
And
Yeah.
there's
With
actually a lot of people that run like a Walking Dead game
Without the
using
zombies or without
using-
yeah.
no, they'll run like a zombie survival game in Twilight 2000 and they do it as a mashup between Walking Dead and Twilight.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people taking The Walking Dead and just tossing out the zombies and just running. You know, you could use a virus apocalypse. You could do anything you want. Yeah, it's basically a good modern engine for games.
So technically, you can do post-apocalyptic even in a fantasy setting, because most fantasy settings, if you think about it, are technically post-apocalyptic. But when you think post-apocalyptic, like when you think of the word, most people, they think like Mad Max, they think like Fallout, they think like modern settings. So to me, post-apocalyptic is a modern genre.
What about Dark Sun?
By definition, post-apocalyptic is usually after some type of apocalyptic event. I wouldn't say most fantasy. I mean, you pick just about any setting of D&D. Most settings of D&D, they're not post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, settings. But they are usually set after like some kind of like more advanced
empire. No, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So baked into fantasy tropes, there is often the idea, because think about it, if you're finding this giant mega dungeon, somebody built that, and those people have been clearly gone and have been dead for a long time. So but I don't know that I think about that as post-apocalyptic. To me, that is sort of just baked into the very substance of fantasy, is this idea, because Lord of the Rings is sort of post-apocalyptic. Right? Yeah. I think just in the DNA of fantasy, there's this idea that there have been societies or ages before that have fallen, and we are living with those things and are looting them.
But I think if you're going to say, like, if somebody says they're going to run a post-apocalyptic game,
they're not thinking D&D.
Then you're talking about
that was my point.
Gamma World or what? An actual like modern post-apocalyptic.
But you kind of could though, because I would argue
if I was
Dark
going to run Dark Sun. Right, Dark Sun is absolutely that, but I wouldn't say I'm going to run a post-apocalyptic game and then everybody shows up and I pull out Dark Sun.
Well, Dark Sun.
I would say say a post-fantasy, a post-apocalyptic fantasy or something like that.
That's the kind of the point I was trying to make. The expectation when you mention the word, like the phrase post-apocalyptic, it's like we're gonna do Mad Max, we're gonna do Fallout, we're gonna do The Road, we're gonna do Walking Dead.
Oh, don't play The Road. That's a terrible game. That'd be a terrible game.
Hyperborea is fantasy to me. Like I get that it's far future post-apocalyptic. I mean, where humans have moved off of Earth and I mean it's fantasy. I mean that's just the backstory.
At the end of the day, it's Conan, but you can maybe find a laser rifle if you're lucky.
Like Edgelord mentions Dragonlance, and Dragonlance, it is definitely post-apocalyptic because all of the stories that pretty much everything was centered around the Cataclysm.
Sure.
And what happened after that. But the world is designed and the gameplay was designed to incorporate that Cataclysm into it and the effects of it into it. So then you go to look at like Forgotten Realms, and WotC/TSR in their infinite wisdom, every time they want to switch editions, they've got to create some apocalyptic event on their world to give them a reason to switch, right? But that doesn't make them a post-apocalyptic world, because nothing about that setting, once you buy it and play it, really has anything to do with the apocalypse that happened. It just changes the rules a little bit. Like, hey, we're going to have this big apocalypse and the spell weave and all this stuff. And we're going to get rid of all the high-level wizards in the world. And they're still going to be high-level, just not as high. I mean, it doesn't really – it's just a selling point for them to push out a new edition. I think if you're going to really call it post-apocalyptic, the world has to revolve around that apocalypse, and your gameplay revolves around it. You have to – you're affected by it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what I was trying to say. It's like the technical definition versus the popular definition, I guess, like the expectation, like I said. So
Chthonic mentioned a little bit ago, inaugural ModCon, modern game convention. So is that modern genre or modern system? So like, is it only, like things like Blacklight and, with guns and all that stuff? Or is it only games that have come out, recently?
Dedicated to modern era RPGs, it says.
Oh, yeah.
So so modern era is that? I don't know. Am I still confused for no reason, or?
No, I get what you mean, and I'm wondering the same.
So what do you think, Matt? I mean, are they running like D&D 5.5?
No, it says if the game is
is
set
it-
in 20th or 21st century. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I have some games like that. I wouldn't mind if people play them at the.
Yeah, so
Constant.
right, so that's kind of using that definition that I put out there originally, which is like everybody. So going back to the oldest people that were born today, and then looking forward to when you expect people today to possibly die. You're stretching out like 80 to 100 years in the past and 80 to 100 years in the future. I don't know that I necessarily would subscribe to that, but I think it's a valid. I think for sure it's a valid way to think about what defines the modern era.
It's also just good for con to not exclude, like, hey, I wrote this World War II game. Like, no, that's not
get
modern.
out of here.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I think it's good to maybe include them.
Yeah, for sure.
Paul, you're closer than you know.
Jason, were the chaps assless?
All chaps are atlas.
I think that's my
All chaps, by definition.
By
are
definition.
Yeah. Well, the question is, did you have anything under them?
I wear blue jeans with my chaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
The Quatch is
Nobody, including me, wants to see that.
I used to wear chaps.
Only on special occasions.
Yeah.
Only on Saturdays when I go to the Blue Oyster.
It's amazing, you guys, man. I agreed with that, and you guys all went to that was Jason. But yeah. So if the game's set in the 20th or 21st century, so that's kind of their definition of modern. So I guess they defined it for us. So what the hell are we talking about?
Yeah,
I've long since forgotten.
I'm fine with that general definition, and you can quibble about the details, but
Which we will.
Yeah, like
I
said,
at great length.
Yeah,
whether you
like
want to
I said,
listen to it or not.
When it comes to RPGs, if you can use the mechanics for a certain era, then I think it's fine to include that era.
Yeah.
If it becomes a little bit different or a little bit difficult, and you're missing aspects that would make that era like really like pop, then yeah,
absolutely.
I just don't like. I struggle with the idea that like Gangbusters is a modern RPG.
Right. That's
but I've looked at Gangbusters and I've picked ideas out of it that I've incorporated in Blacklight. So it's like I don't know.
Well, but you can take ideas from anything, right? Like so is never going home a modern RPG? Is that modern horror?
I don't know what it is. So
that's World War One, right?
World War One of horror. It's a World War One war horror RPG. So it's like
well, World War One was like the first modern war, they say. So hey, word modern's in there, right?
I don't know. It's weird. Like I think saying it was the first modern war is valid up until like the 90s.
Right. I agree. And then, I would say
I think starting with like Desert Storm and I don't know which one was first. I apologize. But I think starting with those like in like those were the first ones I remember. And everything was like televised and that was like a new thing. I mean, and we were, and maybe it wasn't too much different, right? From the way we conducted World War One or whatever. And I'm sure, Jason can comment some more on that. But to me, that was like to say World War One was like the first modern war. Like I think World War One up until like Desert Storm, they're all kind of fought in a similar way. Throw guys at it with guns and like all of that. And then starting with Desert Storm, it was like a different kind of thing. And then now maybe starting with this Iran thing or whatever, we're starting to even go to a different kind of thing.
I'm not even sure Desert Storm was all that different, to be honest. But I do think you're right that in the last 5 or 10 years, it feels like we have definitely changed. Like there's a corner has definitely been turned here.
Desert Storm is the first war I personally remember from being a kid and stuff. It's the first war where they started talking about, hey, we don't even need people anymore. We have like smart bombs. We have like cruise missiles and stuff like that.
Well, we sent a lot of people. Yeah, but we sent a lot of people. Like that was American Blitzkrieg. That was Blitzkrieg,
Yes,
but
it
like
was.
let's let America show what it looks like when you do it with the best war technology the 1990s had to offer.
My point is that that's the first war I remember where they started talking about like precision weapons, automated weapons, and that's kind of like the birth of like what we're seeing now with like drones and stuff like that. That was
but
like,
now we're even seeing drones that we don't even need humans to control them.
Yeah, you can go online and see, and I don't recommend it, but like you can go online and see drone footage of like Russian soldiers being killed from Ukrainian drones. Like that's like unthinkable in the 90s, right? Like it's crazy how different this stuff is.
Well, that's the funny thing about the phrase modern, because it keeps shifting, because it keeps growing with us. So we're at the cusp of like cyberpunk technically in like real life.
Yeah.
So we should be calling we should be calling a game that's set like 20 years from now. We should be calling that cyberpunk, but in 20 years to us will be modern. So
but that's kind of my point. Is like to say like the modern era or whatever started like now like is like in the 90s. So to say like World War I was like the start of the modern war, like I think from World War I to the 90s, that was the end of the 80s or whatever in there, like that was the last era. And then this new kind of modern, started, because it's always now, right? So
because the idea is that it's when artillery started to feel more modern. It's when you had more automatic weapons. It's when you had, they were terrible, but they had tank like I guess proto tanks, right? Like there's a lot of that stuff. There's propeller planes, but you have like aircraft and they're throwing bombs out the side. Like it's primitive, but it feels like these are ideas that you develop forward through time and you can draw them right back to that. But I do think like we are starting to maybe turn a corner on that, where it's like there are things happening now that you would say, wow, I can't even draw a corollary back to that from these are like brand new things that are happening.
So I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, Jason, if you want to touch. I mean I don't want to bring it back or whatever, but
it's funny because I'm actually thinking about that, but not in a bad way or anything. I think Matt really hit a lot of it on the head. I was in Desert Storm, and when we first started ramping up, we all were worried about Vietnam, because Vietnam dragged on forever, it felt like. And it was one of those things where by the end of it, most of the American population was ready for us to get the hell out, whether they were going to be drafted or not. It was, we had won, but the population believed we had lost. So we lost. So we worried about going into Iraq and hitting the quagmire and being there forever. A lot like what happened on the second go round. I was not a tanker. I was an engineer, and we were rolling across the desert. I was driving an M113A3. It's a personnel carrier, just a machine gun on top, no heavy armor. In fact, they're made out of composite aluminum. They're Vietnam era technology. They're terrible vehicles, long since out of use. Anyway, we're going across the desert, and an Iraqi T-54, it was their most modern combat tank at the time, shot around and hit a tank in the formation up ahead, one of our M1s, M1 Abrams. And the M1 did not even know what had been hit. The only damage it took was the rucksacks that were tied to the side of the tank caught on fire. And immediately the M1 turned around and shot and vaporized the T-54.
Yeah, it was like a mosquito.
Yes. And I asked the driver of the tank later. So we stopped sometime later, and I asked him, I was like, what was that like? Because I'm 19, and I'm like, wow, man, that was incredible. What was it like? And he's like, we didn't even know we got hit. I didn't, the squad leader, told us to traverse, aimed it, and shot. The M1 can shoot on the move. That's something that no T series has ever been able to do until the 90s came about, and those are more fiction than fact. And it was, and so for me, that's why I agree with Matt. In World War II, the Tiger was a nightmare to fight, but it was still just a really well built tank. And in Desert Storm, in fact, going back just a little bit, I remember sitting on the couch right before I enlisted, and I was watching the news, and I don't remember what was going on, but they were talking about the brand new main battle tank for the Army, the M1. And it was just a training video. And I remember seeing this tank rolling across that was actually Fort Knox as the tank training area. And just the angles on this thing, up until then, tanks have this bubble turret that sits on top of treads and moves around. The M1, it was something out of the future. Mm-hmm. And I looked at my mom and I was like, wow, the future's here. And that was it, and then, Victor's talking about the automated weapons. We had those in Desert Storm, but they were really basic automated weapons. They weren't what we have today.
Oh no, I mean that's when they started talking about like, hey, we can send a cruise missile through a window,
tomahawks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that was like the first thing I remember about that war. When
Saddam was shooting his Scuds, which were 1950s Soviet technology, and we were blowing them out of the sky. Those things almost never touched down. And so I agree with Matt that the Desert Storm was really the turning point for what we would consider modern war. And, he also said, that the definition of modern war gets updated every single time there's a conflict. Just the technology, he was talking about the drones. When I retired, we had drones, but they were controlled by a dude using radio control. The Reaper was flying around. Now
they're autonomous.
Hancock Airport here in Syracuse.
They do touch and goes all day long.
Yeah, you can see them flying around. And now they're programmed to go somewhere. You push a button and it flies away, does its mission, and come back, and no human ever has to look at it.
But here's the thing: I don't even believe that is the future of our warfare, because now you got to look at countries like Ukraine that were supposed to have lost by now. They counted them out.
Russia figured 4 days.
Yeah.
Saturday alone, 1,000 drones launched at Moscow. Would you have thought 2 years ago that they would be attacking inside of Moscow?
Yeah.
No.
That's great.
No. I would think that Moscow would be just as impossible to hit with something as Washington.
And just like Matt said, you can watch drone videos of them attacking Russian soldiers with drones. You can see them destroying equipment worth tens of millions of dollars with $1,000 drone.
Yeah.
Well, the Ukraine war is kind of what put drones on the map. That's what made drone warfare.
And I think not to say anything bad about our country, but I think we're learning a hard lesson right now, thinking we're going to go in with a conventional attack on Iran. And it's like, okay, well, the Strait, they don't need to defend the Strait. They can just launch drones and blow up the ships that try and come through it. Yeah. And they've really... It's making us rethink how we have to do everything.
There's lots of stuff too there about like the countries that you attack and who their leaders are and what are they fighting for, right? I mean, like I think we just seem to sometimes think every country is the same, and I mean, like Saddam Hussein in Iraq is a very different situation than Iran, and it's a very different situation than for Russia. Like to think that Ukraine, those people aren't going to fight is just a different. Now they also have the entire economy of the whole world propping them up, so there's that situation happening too, but anyway, you're right though, like this stuff changes all the time. I do remember like going to school and that was the talk track was like, oh yeah, like modern warfare started with World War I, but I don't think kids going to school today are going to hear that same thing.
I didn't interrupt anybody, but can we please get back on topic?
I was
it's pretty rare that I say that. I just don't want to keep talking.
Well, so the thing about this is the thing about this is like we've talked about this before too, because RPGs are so combat focused. When you talk about modern and you talk about RPGs, one of the first things, because that's like the first topic we talked about, is guns, because combat is such a major mechanism in RPGs. So you start to define like, well, what makes my RPG modern? Well, does the combat use weapons and terminology that feel modern day to me or not? Right. So if I'm shooting a bow and arrow or a crossbow, that doesn't feel modern. And if I'm like packing a musket ball in something like that, doesn't feel modern. Right. And then at a certain point you say, well, if I'm using a laser gun, like maybe like a rail gun, certain kinds of, but if I have like an alien, death ray laser, then that doesn't feel realistic or modern either. So there's kind of boundaries around that. But I think that's part of why you sort of end up on this track is because combat is such a major part of RPGs, it becomes one of the defining characteristics in how you think about what a modern RPG is. They're sort of like inexorably linked.
Well, that's why I said originally that if we're talking in a purely RPG context, for me, modern is like, are there belt-fed machine guns? Are there like night vision scopes, as rudimentary as they may be. Is there stuff that we would be able to recognize, whether it's World War II or now, that we can like reskin to be, that from that technology level? Because if you're talking about modern as a concept, like even between the start of like the global war on terror versus the end, there was like a huge leap in technology. If you look at pictures from like Delta Force guys that went in 2001, they're still using like 90s kit, using about the same kit that they went in with, like they used in Mogadishu and like Black Hawk Down. If you look at them in like 2020, they're like, they're wearing like the 4-tube, night vision goggles. They've got like the crazy, like tricked out, like ARs and stuff like that. So even then, there was like a huge leap in technology. But if I boil that down into RPG like mechanics, I can you do both eras just, as well.
What did you guys think of this?
Pretty good.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
D20 system. I mean, obviously, Vic, I knew you had it. I didn't expect you to have it.
Yeah.
In Armored Reach.
I have like pretty much all of the D20 books, but I only grabbed the main core book for this.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. And I've got the D20 Future kind of supplement for it, behind me. It's down on the shelf. I didn't pull it out, but it's interesting flipping through that, now 20 something years later. What was this, 2002 or something? So like 23, 24 years later, like the a lot of that future stuff is now, should just be in the updated core book, like
exactly. Yeah.
It's not future stuff. Yeah, there you go. D20 Future. There you go. But yeah, you're flipping through that from 20 years ago. Like I said, it's all kind of modern stuff now. It's interesting, Yeah. And I mean, and I think with this, and I don't remember completely, but I think in this it goes back to I think like the 20s or whatever. I think it talks about running older kind of stuff in it, as a genre. So they kind of consider it, pretty far back. I think more along the lines of like what Vic is saying, but that's where they go, which I don't know, was pretty decent. I played a little bit of this back in the day, not a whole lot. I never ran it. I had a buddy of mine that ran a handful of sessions. So, and that was it. Have you guys played Amazing Adventures?
I'm familiar with it, but I haven't played it.
I know Jason and I think have done one or two one-shots.
I think 2
with Jason.
Yeah.
With Jason Vey. That's it. And those were very. I'm obviously you can run a modern game with it. You can run a future game with it, but the games that he was running was pulp kind of games, because that was the original kind of intent for him before it became this kind of universal, universal system or whatever. Yeah, there you go. You got the Urban Arcana. I don't have that one.
Yeah, if Weapons Locker, Urban Arcana, Cyberscape, D20 Future, and D20 Menace manual, whatever that is. I haven't even looked at it.
Oh, nice.
See, I have Amazing Adventures. I don't necessarily consider it universal though. It's CNC reskinned.
Sure.
If I want to go universal, something like this, I know it's not hugely popular with the people here, but this is more of a universal system.
Yeah.
You could do what you want with it. It fits a lot of genres. It's made to work with any type of setting, rather than, hey, we took CNC and we renamed the spells and we redid the classes, but they all follow the same format. It's basically still D&D in whatever setting you want to do.
Which I'm personally fine with. I enjoy that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, if you're going to say, hey, a universal system, I don't think of that as
no. That's definitely Amazing Adventures is made for a very specific like play style and genre.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was definitely drawn to it because I was running Castles and Crusades at the time, and
that's why I bought it.
Jason Vey, I think he's fantastic. We've had him on and talked to him.
Yeah.
You know, I think I haven't ran it, but I think I like it better than CNC. I don't know. Maybe it's just the aesthetics of the book, or you know that there's more stuff in there that you can kind of move around. Like, you know, not that stuff really wasn't available in CNC, but like it's in like the rules to be able to, you know, tells you how to modify some of the classes and things like that.
I know there's some people that actually use some of the classes out of Amazing Adventures instead of the CNC ones because there's some overlapping classes, and some people feel that the Amazing Adventures ones were a little better.
Yeah, probably for like certain things.
It'd be fun to combine them. So for like kind of like an isekai adventures, like hey, it's like these modern people end up in the fantasy world and use the gun rules and stuff. Like that's the kind of stuff I like doing. That's why I'm like attracted to OSR and stuff, because I can write my stuff, but I can run it with like the Isle of Tibet. I can run it with like Ravenloft. I can run it with like Keep on the Borderlands, and it still works mechanically, but it's like a mashup of settings. And I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Hey Vic, tip your microphone down.
Okay.
You're not using the mic on the headphones?
Are you using the mic on your headphones?
No, that's just. That's
okay.
just,
something was breaking up. It was hard to hear you.
You're a little bit lower. Yeah, that's all.
It's good now.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Amazing Adventures. I like the genre matchup, mashup type of thing. And Vic, I've said this before when you were on, but like Blacklight, like I'm not hugely into running like a modern game or like Spec Ops type of stuff, but I mean Blacklight like really is just
it's freaking
just awesome,
good, dude.
Yeah, it's like
it really is.
And you know, it's interesting because like I think with like Jason and I have zero problem, and I did this in my post-apocalyptic game. I had literally, there were 3 bullets or 3 bullet types in my post-apocalyptic game. There was D6, D8, and D10.
Yeah.
And like that was the extent of how simple I wanted it. So you had, you know, some handguns that could use, you know, D6 and some that had D8 and then whatever. And you had some rifles that could use a D6 or a D8 and like whatever. And, you know, Jason's like, oh, I want this, you know, Remington model, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know, rifle. And I'm like, okay, it does a D8. You need the D8 bullets.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, you know, and he kind of like begrudgingly is like, okay, you know, but like your system is, you know, it's simple enough for me that just wants to kind of hand wave some of the stuff, but it's got enough there with the bullet selection and the way the different guns have the different, I don't know what you call them, but the different kind of abilities or effects that you can apply, like the spray and all of that. Where it works really, really well, I think, to satisfy people that want the minutia of it and people like me that want a simplified thing.
Yeah, I always try to kind of like find that middle ground, especially if I'm writing like, you know, some like a supplement for an existing game like Shadow Dark or Old School Essentials. I try to not veer too much from the core system. I just try to add on to it. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's great. I love it. And I'm planning on running it. I know Stan's not here to show him off, but I bought some what's the name of the company? I bought some Black Ops figures from what's the name of that company, Mike? Is Black Site something?
I don't know where you bought them from.
And,
why would I know?
No, because I thought we talked about it.
Me, kid, you bother me.
But I bought some Spec Ops minis that Stan is painting up, and I am planning on running Ravenloft with Blacklight.
Are they? They're not from Spectre Miniatures, are they?
Yeah, it's not from. Yeah, but it's like a sister company or their mother company or something. it's called like Black Site Studio or something like that, I think.
Okay.
But they're affiliated with them somehow. One of them makes the other one's minis or something. But yeah, I'm still working on, like, I don't want to run i6 Ravenloft because I think there's a lot of like empty rooms and things like that. So I kind of want to simplify it down a little bit. And I know there's I forget what it's called, but there's a Shadow Dark kind of version of Ravenloft. It's called like the Count, the Castle, and something. Shadowloft. Yeah, there you go. That's like called like the Count, the Castle, and something else, I think. And it's so I think I'm gonna use that.
Yeah.
Dude, I've never looked at Black Site Studios, but I just went to the site and I clicked on STL files, and one of the first things that comes up is a set of Golden Girls with guns.
I mean,
nice. Cool. Perfect.
That's under their modern miniatures.
Nice. So Golden Girls with guns.
Golden Girls is modern.
All right.
Yeah. Golden Girls is modern.
It's modern. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they do have Spectre miniature stuff here, but they don't. Spectre's Miniatures is another site. It's all modern stuff.
Yeah.
Black Powder Red Earth. Yeah.
Black Powder Red Earth.
Yeah,
those are the
cool.
minis that I got.
They do cool stuff. So apparently, Agile Monk didn't like the Blacklight cover. That's like the second person I know of who didn't like the cover. So that's two people
didn't
who
like the cover.
Yeah, that's two people now who are completely wrong and bad and evil.
What? Yeah, they're absolutely wrong. What's not to love about this cover?
I think the cover gives the vibe perfectly.
Oh my god, it is right, exactly. It's like. It's the definition of the game. It's perfect. What are you talking about, Agile? I mean,
no, it's fine.
Yeah,
Can't please everyone. That's one thing I've learned becoming a tabletop RPG creator. You can't please everyone. So I pretty much do everything just for my own pleasure and my own tastes at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So so Vic, where are we at with Streets of Magic?
It's coming along. I've been working on it this week. I'm trying to figure out some of the classes because in usual Vic fashion, I'm just going way overcomplicated, and then I need to like tone back and I like rewrite like classes like 12 times before I'm finally satisfied with them. So that's taking a lot of time, but yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you do that with the classes. Like Blacklight has 20 classes.
Blacklight has 11. My new project. So I am working on a new Shadow Dog thing, which is it's basically so people were asking me for like modern rules without the Blacklight setting because they a lot of people want to make their own stuff. So they wanted like kind of like a more generic thing, kind of like what I did for Modern Necessities for Old School Essentials, but they wanted that for Shadow Dog. So that's my new project, and that one has 21 classes. So
oh wow,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
And so that's what's the story with that one? Is that gonna be released or is that gonna go to Kickstarter? Or
I was originally gonna try to fund it on BackerKit, but then I was looking at BackerKit and I was like, I had to set up everything and I just got tired. I was like, I don't want to go through this again. I just did this stuff with Streets of Magic. I don't want to go through it again. So I'm just gonna drop it on Drive to RPG when it's done. And then I was thinking, all the people that backed Blacklight originally, I'm gonna send them like a discount code, because
cool.
At the end of the day, it's based on Blacklight. So just as a thank you, basically, for the people that funded Blacklight and that like Blacklight, it's like here's this new thing at a discount. So
cool.
Yeah, I love that plan because I backed
you in advance. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called Black Rifles and Dark Alleys. And it's basically just generic like modern rules that you can kind of slap your own setting onto, and it's got a lot of Blacklight. What's the words like the rules, and like I just pretty much I'll be honest, I pretty much ported all the psionics from Blacklight into this, and like a bunch of the classes are just like
so it's gonna have psionics and stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna have that stuff in there.
But I am streamlining some stuff because like I wrote Blacklight like a year ago now, something like that. So looking back, it's
so
like,
long ago.
I would do this slightly differently now. I want to like tweak this. I want to like clarify this. So it should be more streamlined, but hopefully people will like it.
Well, we're probably in. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, provided that the cover's decent. Obviously,
Well, I can show the cover real quick.
if the cover's not good, Agile's just not gonna. You know, he's just not gonna bite.
That's the cover right now.
Let's add that and see what happens. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we saw that
Yeah.
last week or the week
Yeah.
before. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I gave
right,
Chubby
Chubby.
Fonster like a early.
Chubby had it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome. Let me do this. Yeah, I don't know how far what you want to show, so that's.
I don't mind showing
like
like
to you.
I've got like custom races. I've got like carousing, so like just the classes.
Yeah.
Force Explorer, Esper, Exorcist.
So what are you doing, like carousing stuff?
Yeah.
Or are you going to do like the blacklight with like training?
No, so I went like carousing. Where is it? So it's carousing, but I updated the prices to be like dollars instead of like gold coins.
Holy cow, $300 for a night out?
Yeah, I mean,
man, has it been that long since I've gone out?
Yeah, but you
Yes, it has.
You get to roll and you might get some good stuff out of it.
Yeah.
But there's like a heat mechanic, so when the police and all that stuff comes after you, there's like reputation. You can have like a day job.
You get up to like 5 stars and the army comes after you?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, there's like 21 classes, like I said.
Oh, that's cool, Vic.
Yeah. Let's see.
Wait, can you scroll back up? Back to the classes? Did I see Sapper on that?
Yeah. Where's
awesome.
Sapper? Yeah.
Okay.
Sapper.
Let me look at that.
Look at that. Explosive.
I was a
specialist.
Sapper. That's why I wanted to see it.
There you go.
So basically, you do more damage with explosives. You take less damage from explosives. You have a discount on explosive materials, stuff like that.
I like it. That's awesome.
Operators, basically, fighter but with guns. For people that want to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Vigilante, you can be the Punisher or Batman, or if you want. So I have Technomancy spells.
Okay.
It's like a whole new magic system. And yeah, there's lots of guns, as you can see.
So you said you got psionics.
Yeah.
And do you have like an occultist, like a mage?
Yeah, so there's the Esper class,
class,
which is the psionics. And
the
then
Esper, okay, so it's the same as Black.
And then the occultist uses like magic, and then there's also the exorcist, which uses like priest spells.
Yep. Okay.
So I wrote that, because this is pretty much compatible with any other Shadowdog product, unless they're really like off the wall. So if there's like a supplement you like that adds like new priest spells, you can combine that with the exorcist from this book, and yeah.
Sure. Do you have like a dollar to gold conversion?
Yeah, it's just like for every one gold coin, it's like $10. I just kept it simple.
Okay. It's just curious. This way, if people are, doing that, they can, you're doing a crossover, they can convert.
Yeah. So I have weapon condition modifiers, so you can like find like an AK like in a swamp somewhere that's like all rusty, and it'll be different than if you find like a whole tricked out like custom gun, And then there's also the cultural firearm modifiers, which I've done before, and people always like that, where it's like dwarf guns are designed differently from elf guns, and all that stuff.
Okay, cool.
Because they have like different design philosophies.
When do you expect to have this completed and released?
I'm almost done. I pretty much just need to do the chapter with like all the random tables. So just like all the technomancy spells.
Yeah.
And then there's psionics, monsters or foes, and then I pretty much just need to do the chapter with random tables, because I want to have like some, like, what are modern shops like, that kind of stuff. Like the Shadowdog has like a lot of random tables, so I kind of want to at least give some of those in like a more modern context. And then it'll be pretty much done after that. So I'm hoping to be done maybe this week or next week.
Oh yeah, we love that.
Yeah, so right now it's 143 pages.
Yeah. And this will be print on demand?
Yeah, eventually. I'm just gonna release it as a PDF first because I want to have the freedom to like update it and tweak it for at least a little bit as needed.
Sure.
Because I'll be honest, I wrote this in like 2 weeks. I just went on a 2-week bender with like almost no sleep, and I just like cranked out 140 plus pages. So I'm sure there's stuff that I want to like tweak and improve. And if I do print on demand too soon, it kind of like locks that stuff in, and it's always annoying when you finally get the print on demand done, and then you notice like a glaring error or something you really want to change. So I'm just gonna keep it as a PDF for a bit until I'm like fully happy with it.
Cool. Yeah, no, it looks awesome, Vic. We approve, and there's definitely myself, Jason, Edgelord, looks like maybe Agile, even though he doesn't like the cover, you know, things like that.
I wasn't originally gonna do this. Like I figured Blacklight was enough, but I had like multiple people approach me. It's like, hey, I love Blacklight, but I would love something like this without the setting attached, so I can like do my own setting. If I want to do like pure military, or if I want to do like urban fantasy or whatever. So I was like, yeah, I guess I can do that. So that's kind of what this was born from.
What's your do you have like a torch mechanic?
Yeah, so it's basically the same as Blacklight, where if you want to, you can like have like areas where, and I say it's like, hey, it could be like supernatural influence, it could be like nanobots, it could be like radiation or whatever. But basically, in these areas, like your batteries and stuff will drain faster. So if you have like a flashlight, if you have like night vision goggles, realistically they'll last a while, especially like in 2026. But if you're like in an area where there's like a haunting, maybe the ghosts are like draining that stuff faster. So,
Vic, Paul wants to know if you've got the modern arms guide for Spycraft and how many updates you've written on it in the last 20 years.
I have a lot of those books. That's kind of what inspired me originally. Like I used to love like those kinds of like books for like D20 Modern, for GURPS, for Shadowrun. Back in the day, you used to have like this random GeoCities sites, and it was just like random nerds making like custom guns for like Shadowrun, and they would have them listed on this site with like descriptions and statistics and like really crappy like low-res pictures. But I would love those sites. And that's the kind of stuff I wanted to emulate when I started writing my own books. So yeah.
Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job at it. I mean, we love it. So Streets of Magic? That's obviously modern because you actually call it modern, but it doesn't really have like a specific like time period.
No.
Right. So it's sort of like Gotham City. You know what I mean? Where like you watch, it's got like the aesthetic of, all the old buildings, the Gothic kind of thing, but it's, all the cars look old, but also people have cell phones, and it's so you don't quite know.
I did that on purpose because, for one, so it's technically set on Earth, but I didn't want to have to like reference modern politics, like modern like geo, like all that stuff. Sure. I wanted to keep it like vague enough, like basically just use locations and like cool stuff that I liked, but not have to worry about anything surrounding that. Plus, I always like that Gotham City vibe where it's like, is it the 1930s? Is it the 60s? Is it now? Like, I don't know, because there's like dudes with fedoras and Tommy guns, but there's also computers and cell phones and robots and like all sorts of stuff. So that was kind of the inspiration with that. Plus, so originally I wanted to kind of do something like Bright, that Will Smith movie.
Yep.
But then I also wanted to make it more my own. So I was like, I'm just going to combine it with like that kind of vibe to make it even more unique and kind of like, So.
Yeah. I mean, bravo. I think you did a fantastic job. I mean, I can't wait to have it in hand, But yeah, love it. But we're definitely on. Let me know when that PDF drops. I'm sure I'm sure we'll see it. You'll have a post somewhere.
Yeah.
Would absolutely love to check that out. I mean, right now I'm loving Blacklight, but I mean, obviously that could be.
Yeah. So I wrote this to also be pretty much be compatible with Blacklight. So since it's Blacklight basically, but expanded and like streamlined, and hopefully, like, you can just take like these rules and still run Blacklight with them. It's just like, oh, it's the burst mechanic, but it's slightly different because Vic streamlined it a little bit because he had different ideas a year later, you know. So, yeah.
Are you the only one that's done Shadow Dark in the kind of the modern era?
Oh no, there's actually multiple other people. There's like some small like creators that have done stuff. There's one book that's pretty cool. Let me see what it's called real quick. I own it. Something with mercenaries. It's like Shadow Dark, but like 1980s mercenaries, kind of like 18 type stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Let me see.
Well, don't sell me on it too hard. I don't want to.
I'm trying to remember the name. It's it's called Shadow Mercs. It's pretty simple.
Shadow Mercs. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They do stuff a little bit. They do stuff a little different than mine, and but they're cool. So check them out. They do interesting stuff.
Yeah, definitely will. Shadow Dark 1980s action adventure.
Yeah, and there's some other people. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but there's some other people that have kind of like done that whole like Delta Green, like Cthulhu, modern Cthulhu type stuff with Shadow Dark, because it lends itself really well towards that. So,
yeah, cool. Yeah, Blacklight was really like the only modern kind of thing that I've seen. I've seen a couple.
I think it's probably the most
things.
I think it's probably the most successful one as far as pure modern goes.
Yeah.
It's not as successful as like Cyberdark or like Dark Space and whatever, obviously. But as far as like pure like modern, I think Blacklight is probably the more successful and more known Shadow Dark one. Which I don't say to like toot my own horn, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Dark Space is interesting to me. I backed it. I have it on the shelf. I think it's well written. I think it's pretty good. I don't want to sound like I'm crapping on it. I'm unsure about the classes.
Yeah.
Like the way that there's just like the strong guy, the talky guy, the there's like the charisma guy, the dex guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they went to the D20 route with that kind of
things.
Because D20 modern does that.
Yeah,
it's like strong hero and fast hero. But then D20 modern also like that. Those are kind of like more like the starting classes, and then you're supposed to branch into more specific stuff later on. And then Dark Space doesn't have it. What I didn't like, Dark Space looks really cool, but what like I thought the weapon mechanics were kind of like lackluster. It's like they could, like, from what I saw, it was mostly just like reskinned bows, basically.
Yeah. Which I'm fine with. Like I'm like, okay, just fine. It's work.
Yeah, but I would have liked. I like having mechanics for full auto fire. I like having like laser weapons doing different stuff than ballistic weapons and stuff like that. And I didn't see Dark Space really do anything with that. But
they didn't. But the cover on the special edition, which is the only one I'd get because I don't like the white cover, but it glows in the dark.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. Actually, yeah. I should have done it with Blacklight, but I'm poor, so.
Yeah. Well, maybe for its 10th anniversary, you can, when it's actually all feasible, right?
Yeah.
When we're actually, sending guys into other dimensions.
Yeah.
In 10 years, you can remake it and do it.
Well, it's cool. So when you never play the game and it just sits on your shelf, when you're done for tonight, you shut off the lights and walk away. It can glow in the room by itself.
Yeah, and like tempt
it's true.
Like, play me. Ooh,
yeah,
it's like pulsing, like
so
whispering.
It glows
like what?
By itself. Yeah,
just creepy whispering in Dutch.
I don't know what you mean. Roger has read and played all of the products he buys. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, same.
Stop it. No, Blacklight. I've ran Blacklight. I think it was. I mean, we had a blast. Yeah. We had a blast with it, and I want to keep running it again. And like I said, I think that's how I'm going to run some of the old stuff. Like, I think you mentioned it earlier, Vic. Like Keep on the Borderlands or like Isle of Dread.
Yeah.
I mean, how awesome would it be just with a group of, spec ops going?
Yeah.
Isle of Dread.
Yeah,
machine guns and dinosaurs, and I mean, it's
At
just
that point, you
amazing.
just get Skull Island. Like,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Or run what's the Matt, what's that the Hex Crawl island that's awesome? Dark where you buy the book and it's actually the player's book is actually the book that you could find in the game. Hot Springs.
Hot Springs Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hot Springs Island's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like that would be awesome, I think, to run. I mean, that'd be awesome to run anyway. Like that's on my list, right? To run, but like I think about running it with like Blacklight, where just a bunch.
So
of,
I'm kind of curious about that because like, what part of that scenario gets you so jazzed up? Is it like the man out of place thing, or because if the guns are my thing with this is like if the guns are really powerful and you're mowing through enemies because your weapons are much more powerful than your everybody else, then that's not going to be that fun.
Yeah, but
right. The fun part, I think, for me, like with Blacklight, and especially the way Vic set it up, is that you roll. Like there's no ammo.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Like
Blacklight is a different. So
thing.
Blacklight's a different thing. Blacklight's a different thing. I'm not. I'm setting that aside, right? And I mean like so like Delta Green is like you're not like Cthulhu sucked this bazooka and blowing them up. Like it's not that kind of game.
Right.
Like there's lots of ways to handle that. But my thing is like if you're doing Isle of Dread and your whole thing is like we're Marines and we're armed with like automatic weapons. Like, is the fun part of that the automatic weapons are much more powerful than their fantasy equivalent would be? And is that like actually a balanced game, or like what is that? Because if they're balanced, then isn't it sort of just the same game that it was before? It's just that you're like the man out of time piece is the role playing part is the fun part.
Yeah, you're saying you're just guns instead of bows.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what is the part of that has
know.
you like so jazzed up. I'm not trying to shit on it. It sounds interesting.
I don't know.
You're
making me sad about it.
And
thanks.
It feels like the part that's cool is like the role playing part, which is great.
Yeah.
Like I don't have an issue with that. I think that's really neat. It's just maybe not what I'm as used to hearing from this group.
Well, the role playing part is that you're like modern Marines dealing with dinosaurs all of a sudden. You're modern Marines dealing with orcs all of a sudden. And also, the guns are more powerful, but you're on this tropical island and you're gonna run out of ammo eventually. And then maybe now you have to find that Japanese sub that's stranded there in the 1940s, and there's like old boxes of old World War II Japanese guns on there, and you have to scavenge those. So now you can't use your fancy M4. Now you're running around with a rusty World War II weapons. We're just trying to survive.
Vic, slow down. I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
No, I try and look at it like from the other direction, and it doesn't work out as well in my brain. Like if you had a bunch of, BX characters or whatever, right, or Shadow Dark characters, and they went through a portal and they're in, Nazi Germany.
No,
and,
it's
they've got swords and stuff, and they're going against people with guns. Like that doesn't excite me as much as like the modern day thing.
No, you're doing Jumanji, Roger. I get it. There's no reverse Jumanji where Mr. Monopoly pops out in our world, and that's a fun story. Like that's nobody cares about that. Like I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's but to me,
Mr.
like
Monopoly.
the thing that makes Jumanji so interesting is like it would be the role playing part. It's like trying to work through like what is going on and how would this feel if I was actually there and what would that look like?
Yeah.
And then the resource management piece is like an interesting
Yes.
spin on that where like I have it's almost
Because
like
you're stranded.
spots in a way. It's like I have this very powerful weapon at my disposal, but maybe I want to use the club because I only have 7 bullets left. Like
and so
yeah.
And I like that with Blacklight because of the way the ammo system works. And I'm not as forgiving as Vic is. But like doing the ammo check, like, you can 6 guys shooting at a T-Rex or whatever. Like, you take that thing down, but
the
ammo cost, you use a few slots of ammo on that. And it's like, holy shit. Like, so yes, you got to balance like, well, do we just unload on this thing or do we, or maybe you got an RPG, but you got, 3 rockets, or whatever.
Exactly.
And it's like, shit, maybe we should hide behind this rock and hope it, goes by. And so like making those decisions with, like you said, like the resource management,
Yeah.
I think that's what does it for me.
Okay.
The resource management, the fact that you can't,
Yeah.
like reload or what. And I know, Vic, you got rules for that or whatever. Then whatever.
I actually clarified them a little in the new thing, where it's like, yeah, if the character just shot one, like maybe don't make them do an ammo check.
Yeah, I think you added that in just
Yeah,
for me.
I did actually, yes.
You know,
I fully admit that, yes.
did you put Roger is stupid in parentheses next to it?
Yeah, fuck you, Roger.
Thanks, Vic. You're part of the crew.
Yeah.
Roger ran our Blacklight game.
Yeah.
And I was one of the players. And what you're talking about, blowing through the monsters, that's exactly what happened. We were fighting goblins or something like that, and we were mowing them down. My guy was packing an M60 or something, a 7.62 machine gun. It was a 240 M60. I can't remember which. Same thing.
240, I think I put in there, yeah.
And I was mowing them down. But about halfway through the scenario, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, there is no way that these goblins are the toughest thing we're going to fight.
Exactly.
So after that, I started using my sidearm, my pistol, and then my knife. For exactly because of that, I was like, I'm going to run out of bullets on my beautiful machine gun here, and then I'm really going to wish I had them.
Yeah.
But as far as what's the appeal, I really like modern games. I don't get to play them much. Everybody wants to play Dungeons and Dragons. Everybody wants to play heroic fantasy, which I love. That's certainly not an issue. But I really like playing modern games. So when the first time I saw Blacklight, Roger's the one that told me about it. He's like, I think there's this game. You might get a kick out of it. And I looked at it, and we were talking about earlier, about the different bullet damage. And the first thing I did was open it up to the 50 cal to see what the damage was, and it was crazy.
The first thing he does with every RPG, every modern RPG, is flip to the gun section.
Well, the reason that, and I'm sure I already said this, but I wanted to see what the 50 cal did, and if it did brutal, deadly damage, I was like, okay, this guy's got the right train of thought here, and it does. And I was like, awesome. And so after that, I started checking everything else out. And it's just a really well done game. If anybody doesn't have it yet, you should definitely go get it.
Thank you.
And not just because Vic is on the show. It's a great modern RPG. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think.
Good.
Yeah, Matt. Just thinking on what you're saying, I think that's what it is for me. Like thinking into it because that's like the same kind of like the whole resource management thing. Because that's exactly the game that I want to run with Traveler. Where I want to have a ship that's stranded out in space and say, okay, you got to get to this, through this random hex map, to the other side. And it's a, resource management kind of game. And I think this is the same thing where it's like, here you go. You're all loaded, down with supplies and all this stuff. And, hey, use your resources wisely, going through the.
Yeah, I mean that I didn't mean that as a criticism at all. Or it wasn't meant to be a leading question. You're very excited about you're very you're very excited about this particular situation. So I was just trying to figure out what was the part of that had you so just up.
Because I'm like Roger, I love that kind of stuff. But if you want to kind of like get an idea of how that stuff would work really well. Check out like Monster Hunter International, the book series by Larry Correia. It's like about like basically it's like bounty hunters that deal with like supernatural stuff, vampires, werewolves, like all that stuff. And guns are powerful, but they're dealing with stuff that can like heal, like that has like a Wolverine healing factor, like that kind of stuff. Check out Forgotten Ruin, which is basically about army rangers that get sent forward into time, but forward into time is like they get sent for 10,000 years forward, but like a nano plague turned everything into D&D basically. So it's like army rangers, it's like this couple hundred army rangers, and all of a sudden they're like in D&D land. They get it, like the book literally starts with them stranded on an island and they're getting assaulted by like thousands of orcs and giants and trolls and stuff like that. So it's like them embedded with machine guns just trying to hold off like this wave of like berserker like orcs and like attacking them. There's like wizards in the woods like throwing spells at them like artillery and stuff. That really like kind of like hits home how that genre mashup like can work.
Yeah, I think Jason, I would love for us to talk a little bit about what you were just saying about the fact that you like modern gaming and you don't get to do it a lot. I actually think modern games are very difficult. I find running them especially to be very challenging and kind of mentally taxing. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think you're doing a lot of mental gymnastics around, part of it is the information accessibility that exists like today, especially if you're modern, like post internet and cell phones existing. There's a lot of problems that are, there's a thing about like Seinfeld, the show Seinfeld, that like 99% of the Seinfeld episodes you couldn't make now because a cell phone solves every problem that they have.
Yes.
So there's a challenge there with information accessibility and the ability to access even fairly complicated technological items that you can just go down to Best Buy or you can pay Amazon to drop off somewhere in 6 hours. That level of accessibility didn't exist in the 80s. And I think the more that you and your players know about the time period that you're in some ways it becomes harder because everybody is constantly fact checking everything because it's a reality we all live in and know and understand very intimately. So again, that thing about the Knicks not existing yet, like those little things will throw somebody. I think I told you guys before about my experience playing the Mall at Gen Con. The Mall is a liminal horror game set in the 90s. And I was one of only 2 people there between the 8 players and the person running the game that actually were alive in the 90s. So the whole game was people saying things like, oh, I just accessed the Wi-Fi. And it's like, no, you don't. So all these kinds of things that don't.
They've never been in that world without Wi-Fi.
Similarly, the first Get in the Trunk episode for Delta Green, one of the funny things about that episode is there's probably an hour of the 4 hours is them debating how to get from place to place in Manhattan. Like, well, you wouldn't take that subway line. You wouldn't do this time. You know how much traffic there'd be there this time of day? And it's very funny, but like that stuff sort of invades the gaming space, that like there's less separation between the game world and the real world. And I find that kind of mentally taxing. So what I like about games like Blacklight is you are narrowing the focus very significantly. And I think we were talking about Vampire. One of the things that made Vampire work is it gets rid of a lot of that noise. It's really narrowing the focus. So but I do think that is part of the reason why modern games maybe are not as popular. Part of it is because it's like there's less escapism if you're playing in the world that you're in all the time. But also, I just think they're hard to run. I think they're a little bit hard maybe to play, but they're very mentally taxing to run. That's been my experience. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's so good.
That's while you're talking, I was like thinking about different scenarios. For me, that's where games like Twilight 2000 and Blacklight really excel. Because with Blacklight, once you go through the portal, your cell phone is done. You can't
There's no satellite in this universe.
You might have a walkie-talkie so you can talk to your teammates, but you have a battery life, and that that's the candle timer. Twilight 2000 is the final push in World War III that failed, and so you're cut off. There's no supply drop for you. There's no information like that. So those type of things, I think solve that kind of problem. But then with games like D20 Modern and Spycraft, the games that take place now today, I totally agree. It's. I whip out my cell phone and I Google it. Or I Google Map it. So now I have a satellite view of the building I'm about to go into or this neighborhood. I know exactly what's there. And as a DM, I can see being like, oh God. So but again, that's why I like games like Blacklight and Twilight 2000, because you don't have to worry about that nonsense. You can focus on the mission and deal with what's at hand and not what you think you might have access to.
I definitely think that modern works best if you combine it with some other genre, and it could be a small genre. It could literally just be like an era. It's like we're gonna do modern, but it's the 90s, so we're not really worrying about cell phones too much. But that's why I like urban fantasy. That's why I like stuff like Blacklight, where you just like go into a portal and now you're just guys with guns in the fantasy world. Some Stargate type stuff. So yeah.
I definitely dislike the modern era. Like it'd be harder to do a Spycraft, right? But like with my Supers game, right, that I ran, that that I use Sentinel Comics with, and I mean, the system doesn't matter for that, right? Like I mean, I could have done it in any other system, but I purposefully did it in modern day, but I did it in an alt history thing where there were supers around, and I basically made it so that at some point in the past, a supervillain in like the 90s like destroyed all the lithium mines. And so now because of that, the like you still have nickel cadmium batteries and stuff, so you've got these huge battery packs, and like LCD technology didn't happen because of some of this other stuff that happened that was made illegal because somebody tried to use it for nefarious purposes. And so now it's like, okay, computer, like we're in modern day, but there's no LCDs and there's no lithium ion batteries. So like a cell phone is still a bag phone or a brick phone or something, and you've like computers or CRTs, so like they're sort of accessible, but they're not just hey everybody's got one in their pocket. So that's kind of how I handle that, because I hate that where it's like, oh, I need a map, oh, I got it, oh, I need directions, oh, we need a random pizza place that sells anchovies, oh look, I found one in 5 seconds. I hate that in a game.
Yeah, those problems are pretty easy to overcome. You just need some creativity and then, maybe tweak the setting a little bit.
So one of the things that I did with my Delta Green game, because you can run into that problem, obviously, is first of all, I made it very clear to them that, so we're set early 2000s, so you don't have the amount of technology that we have today at your fingertips, because they were like, so one of the things they've been told from the get-go is when they get called up for an op, they don't bring their own cell phones with them. They get, at best, they get a burner phone that has some texting technology, and they're basically told, unless it's an emergency, you don't call.
Right, because it'll be tracked or whatever.
Right. Right. And so that eliminated part of that. Certain little things though, like your example there about like ordering food or whatever, to me, it's a fucking role-playing game. It's a non-issue. If they're doing a stakeout, or if they're like they're going through this whole house, rummaging through everything, and they're going to be there for the next 8 hours going through files.
Sure.
When they tell me, when I go, you guys are going to be here all night, you're going to sleep, or you're going to work through the night? We're going to work through the night. They'll be like, oh, can we call and order some food? Sure. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not like
that was a little over the top.
It doesn't make
the hand waving thing.
I'll give you a weird example, okay?
Well, wait, give me one more thing. One thing that I really liked about it was the fact that because of all my players, they're the same age as me, and they grew up in this era. When they, this last week 2 weeks ago when we played, they went in and they're looking for a guy that's missing, and they're in his office and they're rummaging through stuff. And one of the guys is like, is there a phone on the desk? I said, yeah, there's a phone on the desk. All right, I pick up the phone, I dial *69.
Yeah, the last number he called.
Right. So he called, and it was the last number he called, and they actually got information out of it. Now, the funny part is the adventure actually had a little tiny blurb in there, like if a player is smart enough to think of this, they'll call this number and get that. It blew my mind that he actually came up with it, because I was going to wait till after the adventure was done and then throw it out there and go, hey, here's the types of things that you guys could have done, just to like further them along in the game later to understand, what's possible. But
I think Vic's too young for *69.
Yeah.
I'm from '84, so I don't know.
Yeah, you might know that. If that's I don't know if it's different in different countries.
Oh, I'm sure that we have different.
So I'll give you an example where this is one that I've struggled with a little bit, but when I was first running modern games, is like the idea of hacking or computer skills.
Yeah.
Right. So you run Mothership and somebody has computer skills, and like the first thing, every time anybody boards any ship, the first thing they want to do is like, is there a computer terminal? Can I hack the ship? And it's like, well, what do you want to know? Well, I want to know like the manifest. What are they carrying? Who's on board? What's their flight log? Like all that kind of stuff. There's mechanics for that. And because it's like, I know it's like low tech sci-fi, but it's sci-fi. You go like, yeah, sure. You have a thing. You can do that. But then in the modern day, you killed this guy. Okay, I take his iPhone. I want to hack it. And it's like, well, I know you can't. You're not gonna be able to get access to some random guy's iPhone. right? Like the government has a hard time getting Apple to let them get into iPhones. Right. So now you run headfirst into this real thing of like, yeah, I know your thing says you have computer 70 or whatever, but like I know you're not going to be able to get into this iPhone. So you sort of need to establish, this is what for me, what I've learned is like, you sort of need to establish up front, like, hey guys, this is set in the modern world, but we're gamifying certain things. Like you're going to have to be okay with the idea that like, we're going to roll for some stuff that like you might kind of, because these are real things that exist, you may know that like, well, you're not actually going to be able to do that. But like, this is a game. It's sort of like, you know, you have to have a certain ability to suspend your disbelief about things in order for the game to function correctly. Sure. Otherwise, we're just going to be arguing all the time about all this real world stuff.
Well, that came up in our game. So we actually they found a cell phone from one of the guys that they were investigating. They found the cell phone. And before we started it, I looked at the time period and the Apple III was out at the time. So we still at the infancy of smartphones. So they're like, well, is the phone locked? I go, of course the phone's locked. And they're like, well, they had the guy, he was dead. And they're like, well, I'm going to go over and get his fingerprint off it, or I'm going to get his eye thing. I'm like,
there wasn't Touch ID.
I go, that's great, but they didn't have that technology back then. Yeah. And they're like, shit. Yeah. They're like, there's not really any way we can get in this phone, is there? I'm like, not really, you know?
Yeah, I get what Matt means, but for me that's never been a problem because I always lean into the genre, like fiction, a little bit more. So for me, like even in a modern setting, like hacking, it would be like the hackers, like the Angelina Jolie movie. It would be like Swordfish, you know. It would be like movie hacking. Some guy going, whoa, and there's like
some fake Linux stuff comes up, and suddenly they're in the mainframe.
So that's for me is hacking. Like I wouldn't really think of like, oh well, even the government has like trouble hacking an iPhone. Like no, this guy he's got swordfish.exe. And, you know, he can hack the stuff. So yeah.
Well, I guess it comes down to what you want to as a DM, what you want to allow them to do also.
Sure. Yeah, you know, that's the thing. Yep.
If you're playing in today's modern era and you don't want them to have access to it, then you know,
I only figure out a reason why.
I only bring this up because I had it happen twice. I had it happen in a home game with one specific player of mine, and I had it happen in a con game where it was really obnoxious. Where games set in the modern era where somebody's arguing, well, I would have this. This is something I would have or could get. And it's like, no, it's actually not. And them being very, very agitated about that in a way that like, I've never had somebody be like, my barbarian would have this D12 battle axe. Like, it's just not, there's something different about games that are set today that people's brains seem to work a little bit differently in terms of like them wanting to inject their version of reality and how they think it works into the game world.
Yeah.
So it's just, I just, that's what I mean. I just feel like modern is not as popular because for a lot of reasons, but one of them for me, like exactly what you said, Mike, like when I run Delta Green now, like it's got to be 20 years in the past because I don't want to have the cell phones and the internet. And it makes it so much harder to run the game and feel like it's people not just getting bogged down in that stuff.
It's hard to keep anything secret when they have a smartphone in their hand, access to Google Maps, Google Earth. You know,
but the thing is, though, my problem with that is I don't even know how true that is. Like certain things that is true, but like we don't walk around in our daily life and have the answer. We don't have the blueprint to every building and the answer to every. Right. Like, sure, there's a lot of surface level publicly available information that everybody has. But I just think that stuff infects the game, or it's just people just think, well, I have perfect information because like in my day-to-day life, I can Google any question. And it's like, sure, but pick a random person and like really try to get into the nitty gritty of their identity. Like you're not going to be able to do that. Yeah. I mean, most of us. Right. So, you know, I don't know.
It's interesting. Like the other side of it though, too, is sometimes good. Like, I mean, I'll argue that point. I'm not saying like forever it's great that you can, you know, have all that stuff. But like if you're playing a modern game in a modern city, right? Like I'm in Utica, right? So like if I'm running a modern game that's set in Utica today and I can say, hey, we're over here at St. Luke's Hospital, right? Because something's going down, whether it's a superhero game or James Bond or whatever. And then somebody says, hey, you know, we need to get these certain things that we can get from a hardware store. Well, you could easily just say, like, instead of having to come up with it on the fly, you could just say, okay, hey Siri, what's the nearest hardware store to St. Luke's Hospital? And she'll tell you, oh, it's a 10-minute drive in current traffic. So it's like, it's great for that. So, oh, that's a 20-minute trip, like you can easily do that. Or like, oh, you want to find, maybe you want to, dispose of something and you want to be off in the woods. Well, you could physically pull up Google Maps and go, oh, okay, look, there's woods over here. Let's go over here, and you can do it. So, I mean, I think there's some good
there's
to
good
it.
stuff. Yeah. The other thing is like the combat, right? So combat is like a weird thing when it's in modern games too. There's a suspension of disbelief that you need to be, to feel like Rambo or something is really happening in the real world, or any of those right? Because you go, oh well, it's Fallout. I have a thing I can inject myself with, and it magically heals me. And you just go, yeah, well that's fine. And then if it's fantasy, you go, well the cleric or priest has divine powers, and that's fine. But then you go, you're playing Delta Green, you're like, well, I shoot this guy with a rifle, and it's like, yeah, well he's dead because it's. What really happens in real life.
It's funny because in Delta Green, there's a whole chart in the hand. I think it's in the Keeper's Guide that's all about those injuries. And do you need to go to a hospital, or can you get, where can you get treatment for it, or even can you get treatment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need to level set with your players when you're running. If people are used to playing, far future or fantasy games, and you're trying to run a modern game that's not pulpy, right? Because what's the one that you said, Jason? Outgunned, right? So Outgunned is like not that kind of game where you're shooting people with a machine gun and they're being instantly obliterated based on a lethality table or whatever. It's not that kind of game. So it's like it's a pulpy game. But if you're playing a lot of modern games, like they don't work that way. And I think you really need to level set that with the table. Like, hey, if you think this is D&D and you're going to kick the door down and like enter into combat and everyone's going to walk out, that's not what's going to happen. Like, Call of Cthulhu, you get hit in the head with a pipe and you can be dead. So it's just a very different style.
Me personally, I always kind of lean more into the pulpy, more cinematic stuff. So my modern stuff is less just ultra realistic, and it's more like John Wick. It's more like a Blade or something like that. So.
And I think that's a lot of fun. Like it's all about but I think there's in a lot of people's heads, once you're in the modern time, there's less of that ability to suspend disbelief about that stuff unless you explain it somehow. Right? Like superheroes, sure, everybody's fine with that, right? Sure. Like how the hell does like Hawkeye or like Scarlett Johansson survive in Avengers with all this stuff going on? It's like so ridiculous, but everybody just goes, yeah, it's fine. They're superheroes. It's okay. There's like genre things that let you get around that. And then there's other ones that I think if you don't make that explicitly clear, hey, like this is a more pulpy kind of thing. Like you're, have hit points kind of like in D&D versus something that doesn't have it. Modern really forces you to have that conversation.
For the record, Scarlett Johansson didn't survive it, but spoilers.
She survived the first Avengers. What are you talking about?
No, the first Avengers. Yeah, no.
I've never.
I get it.
I know what you mean. Yeah, and how did she die? Did somebody kill her?
Yeah,
they argued about who got to jump off the cliff, and
so she said. So the only way she died is she sacrificed herself.
Yeah, the two humans without superpowers fought over who was going to kill themselves.
He almost got killed by a snowplow. What are we talking about here with these movies?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I've personally never had to have that conversation that much.
That's true.
Yeah,
his career didn't, but he did.
Yeah. But
what was it, Vic? I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
No, I've personally never had to have that conversation that much. Like it's not that much in my experience, and I've won a lot of modern games. Like I write them, so I won them a lot. I've never had to have that conversation that much. There might be occasional quibbling, but I even get that in fantasy stuff. I get that it was like, oh well, this armor didn't exist in the 14th century. That only came around in 1538. Like, okay, well, fuck you. So. Like if I from the outset make clear that it's a genre piece and we're doing more John Wickish rather than like ultra realistic, for the most part people are fine if you know, if they can't just go to the sporting goods store and buy like a fancy shotgun, they have to go to, you know, the high level arms dealer to get one. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe says when we played Amazing Adventures, we're in modern times, and AC was based on how badass your outfit looked. That's one of the things that they have it on in the book, that you can use like regular armor class, or you can just assign, you know, cool factor or whatever to the stuff. And I kind of like that as like more like a modern, I don't want to say superhero game, but you know what I mean, like a low impact, like more like a John Wick or something like that, where there's people getting shot all the time and like, you know, nobody ever dies, right, from bullet wounds, right? You just you know, jam like you grab a handful of you grab a tampon or something and just shove it into the bullet wound and fix your coat, and you know, you're good to go. You're you know, you're good as new or whatever.
Well, and that's pretty much what Outgunned was designed after. So the standard Outgun, they literally compare it to John Wick, and then Outgunned Adventure is Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And now they have a sci-fi one.
Yeah.
You know,
superhero one.
Yeah. No, it's something that I want to check out. I don't know if that's something that I want to run. I mean, I'd rather. I mean, you know me. I mean, obviously, I'd rather like Shadow Dark is more deadly. Like I kind of like that. I think it works well like in Blacklight, because it's a decent. It's not like, oh, you get shot and you instantly die, but you know, the guns and stuff do enough damage, and you know, so there's that threat of death, but it's not like super heroic. You know, I think it's a good balance there.
Yeah.
My opinion.
You know, it's also D&D based, and damage is actually like an abstraction. It's not meant to be like like a literal wound always. But yeah.
I think that's kind of one thing that I actually liked about Savage Worlds when we did Deadlands, though, was that it's not hit point based. It is wound based.
Yeah.
And you do have the ability to soak those wounds and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's less of a battle of attrition. You get into D&D and you have a defined set of hit points in an armor class, and you get somebody good, they're just shooting you, whittling down hit points, and next thing you know, you're dead. And it's
I actually like the bennies and be able to like soak a wound and stuff like that. It makes it feel very cinematic.
It was definitely a struggle for us to learn, and I don't think everybody in my group got it right away. We got to return back to it.
Especially if you're used to, like, for 30 years you've been doing it, where you know, it's like you said, the battle of attrition with hit points. Like, it's hard to get out of that mindset unless you've done it. You know,
well, the hardest part for them was to learn to position themselves to not take wounds. Mm-hmm. You know,
well,
like you know, you're playing D&D, you don't want to go prone.
That's a problem. Somebody's going to D&D guys.
Somebody's going to kill you if you drop prone. You know, but then you play Savage Worlds and you're firing a gun at somebody, or they're shooting at you. You know, you get behind a rock and you drop prone, and you got all kinds of cover on you now, and you know, they just weren't grasping that right away. So that's why we took a break from it, because it was like it was going poorly for them. And there was one guy unhappy, and we just decided we'd take a break, and we're going to come back around to it. But I think they're ready for it. They understand, you know, how it's supposed to work. They just weren't doing it very well.
Yeah.
My last Savage Worlds games, I was actually a player, and we were doing like 90s like Hong Kong like action like movie stuff, like John Woo type stuff. And my character was literally just like Chow Yun Fat, like from The Killer, from like A Better Tomorrow, just a complete ripoff. No, it was great, and it worked really well. Like, just like jumping into a fight with like twin Berettas, you know, like that kind of stuff. It was really fun.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Wounds and stuff. I like that. I wish that there was an easier. I mean, I guess you can implement it in the Shadow Dark, right? Like every time you go to 0, you can roll on a wound table. Like I know, like Axe. Well, I really love the tables in Axe there. That, you know, the I forget if they call them grievous wounds or something table, or that's in the back. But you know, just various things can happen. Go ahead.
What I would do is like reintroduce hit dice and kind of use the hit dice as like. That's like the number of wounds you can take. So if you have like 2 hit dice, you can take like two
You
wounds.
could take 2 wounds before you off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you're out of commission or something. Yeah. That's not bad.
See, it was also deadly though that if you take those wounds, and you can die a week after you take those wounds if you don't do something about them. And when you're set in the 1800s, if you don't have any kind of magic to heal it, which there's not much magic in Deadlands, but there are some classes that have them. But if you don't have some way to get rid of those wounds and you're just trying to heal naturally, you still have to make rolls, and there's always the possibility of dying from those wounds, which, you can argue whether that's enjoyable or not, but it's definitely realistic.
It's interesting, right? Like
you get shot in the belly with a gun, especially in the old Wild West, chances of survival are low.
Like I don't want like a super heroic game, but like to be super realistic like that, where like I think especially in like the kind of games that I run, right? Like if you get into a gunfight and you get shot and it didn't kill you because you got low hit points and all that stuff, like I would hate to have the player roll to like, hey, roll to see if you get gangrene and just die tomorrow, or whatever.
It's not quite the way it works, but it's...
no, but you know what I mean. It's a time thing, or like you got to have a week. But like if you're out in the middle of nowhere, like you said, and you can't get to like a hospital or something that can fix that, like you're done. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know how it's any different than Death at Zero in a BX game or Shadow Dark or any of those that are meant to be super deadly. How's it really any different?
Sure.
In my games, even with the whole Death at Zero stuff, I allow for like maybe you get your friend to the hospital in time. Like if he stepped on the trap and like 6 blades came out of the wall and he's just like in pieces on the floor, okay, it's not gonna do much. If he got shot and he's at 0 hit points, maybe he's got shot. Maybe you have a few hours to try and get him to the hospital and like maybe save him, and he gets to make a check. And stuff like that. So for me, it's like, okay, like what actually happened? What sort of wound do I deem it to be? Is there a chance that they can possibly maybe like recover in some way? So yeah.
And then I mean, in Shadow Dark, it's there's no negatives, right? You go to 0, and then if you're you make a DC 15 intelligence check, you stabilize, and then you can, then you got all the time in the world to get somebody to a hospital or whatever, or to a cleric or whatever, or a hospital, I guess, in the case like Blacklight or whatever. So you just prop somebody up by a tree and, you leave them there until you come back or whatever.
Yeah. Well, in my new thing, I do have like, so when you're resting, there's like, where are you resting? Are you like in a dirty derelict apartment, or are you in like a hotel room? Are you in a private clinic? And there's like different walls with different DCs you can make, and so like you don't get your full health back when you're resting. You just get partial health, and the DCs are just lower depending on what kind of environment you are in.
So I just to remind myself, because it's been a while since I ran it. So just looking, I don't even have I'm looking at the Deadlands book, not the Savage Worlds book. So I don't know the exact rules to it, but like looking under equipment, there's a doctor's bag, right? You can buy a doctor's bag that grants a healing reroll, and it's got 5 uses, and then it can be refilled. So if you get wounded like that, somebody else in the party can try and do a healing roll if they have the skill to try and remove some of your wounds. But then under services, still under equipment, there's a doctor visit. You can go in the office, $3. Doctor house call, $5. And it just reminds me of like Tombstone, right? The guy gets shot, they bring him in, they throw him on the table. Hey, go get the doctor. And here comes the doctor running in, and it's different than D&D. You don't have the cleric standing right there to cast Cure Light Wounds on you. Instead, you go call for the doctor.
Yeah. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's not as bad as I made it sound. I mean, there are ways to save you, but if you fail all those rolls, after you only have like an hour. You have like 1 hour after that wound to save yourself, and then you're left to the dice for natural healing. So if you don't get that natural healing, now, your wound could get worse.
What about sexual healing?
Well,
Ooh,
that's a different type of game, but
Yeah.
that's a
I
good.
get
Well,
that
no, I
reference.
mean, like
Excellent song.
in the old west, right? You go to like the brothel after you're been beat up. You go to the brothel, and that gives you a good night's sleep plus. We'll call
if you
it
go
that.
to the brothel with a
And-
gut shot, you're probably going to die from the brothel.
No, I'm saying like once you get patched up by the doctor,
Oh, okay.
instead
Yeah.
of like going to the inn, like if you go to the inn and sleep, maybe you get so many hit points back, or cure so much. But if you go to the brothel, you not only get that good night's sleep, but you get that plus,
Right.
and maybe that gives you like advantage to the number of hit points you get back, or you get you heal 2 wounds instead of 1, or whatever the system. You know what I mean? You get a little bit extra, but you also gotta make that Constitution save the next morning. But
By the way, fun, modern, pretty lethal game, and don't mind how it looks because a rabbit gnawed on it once. I left it
It
on
says-
the floor.
that says T-Dog. It says T-Dog, Vic.
No, it's Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai, but it's so this one's based on the movie Ghost Dog, but it's Tristat. It's a Tristat system by it used to be Guardians of Order. I think
I
they were
have
called.
such a problem with
Yeah,
rabbits.
Guardians of Order. They're this Kami, I think, publishing now these days. But I used to be a big Tristat fan, and this was my introduction to Tristat because I
Yeah.
was a big fan of the movie, and I ended up buying the RPG. But this is like a great like modern RPG.
Yeah. Not Blacklight.
I mean, Blacklight's pretty
Oh.
decent. It's alright. It's alright. If you
It's
like
okay.
if you like that
Yeah.
sort of thing, I suppose.
Still doing a pinch.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't believe there's an RPG of that movie. That's like
No.
such a
yeah. It's actually the first physical RPG I ever bought, and it actually it's like it's a great resource for
It's
like
awesome.
like modern like crime campaigns because it's got like whole chapters on how like the mafia works or kind of like the kind of scams they run, like all that stuff. So you could like literally just like run like a whole like Sopranos campaign like doing this, using this.
Yeah.
that movie made $3 million at the box office. Like
That
what a
movie's
random-
awesome.
I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying box office determines how good a movie
Yeah.
is. It's just a really random license to
Yeah,
someone had to
I am-
pay for that license.
I am probably the only person in the world who owns this. Let's be honest.
Somebody just like Vic was like at that movie and was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I got to make a game of this."
Yeah, but no, the general system behind this Tristat it's really good for modern games, and it's basically the same as Big Eyes Small Mouth, which was like the
I haven't
anime
I haven't
version.
played the Tristat. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah.
what I like about it is that it's very scalable. So this one, because it's kind of like modern like action movie guy, it's like it uses D6, and then superheroes like you use D10s, D12s, and stuff like that.
Okay.
If you're just like a regular schmuck, you use like D4s. So like I like that about it.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I love that it's beat to hell. That's like
Yeah.
it gives a character.
I used to have rabbits, and they would wander freely around my apartment, and I couldn't leave anything on the ground. So yeah.
Yeah, crazy. Oh, Dan is updating Castles and Crusades Foundry system to actually work with Modern Foundry VTT. Is it have they updated the Castles and Crusades Foundry to actually work, or how far are they with that? Or is it a third party one? I'm thinking about using Foundry to run Shadow Dark, maybe some Blacklight. I don't know.
I like Foundry, but the updates get a little bit they get too bit much.
Yeah.
Especially since you'll be using like custom stuff, and then like Foundry updates and it just breaks it immediately.
Yeah. So wise choice, Dan. Wise choice.
Dan, can you fix all the editing errors while you're doing it too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan will be at CNY.
Nice.
So yeah, good times. But yeah, Dan, when you got it finished and it works, let me know. Maybe we'll send it into Troll Lord and help him out a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
I'm
So
sure-
even
I'm
Agile Monk is in there.
I'm sure they'll pat you on the back for doing it afterwards too.
Yeah, I'm sure. So
I actually
yeah,
want- I
no,
actually-
good luck.
I actually wanted to do my own Castle Crusade modern book at some point a couple years ago, but I decided against it. But I was going to call it Call Signs and Carabines, so it would still be CNC technically, but you know.
Yeah, but are they using their system?
Yeah, it would have been their system. Yeah.
Yeah.
You made a good choice going otherwise.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Dan is providing updates in the Founders
Yeah.
channel on Troller Discord. Okay, so he's like
Yeah,
he must have officially taken over for it. Then.
Yeah.
I think I've seen some of his posts on there because I'm over there. I just haven't been reading much in a long time over there.
I know Mike was working on it for a while, and then he kind of disappeared. And not you, Mike.
No, not me.
Another Mike.
Yeah.
And he kind of disappeared, I think. But yeah. So yeah, good times. Well, it's fantastic.
Yeah, Dan, Testy McTestface.
Yeah. Yeah, Jocelyn, give it a whirl. Right now, I'm working on adding containers and items to commerce first of all. Yeah, the Shadow Dark one. I don't know if that's official. I think it's a third party, but the Shadow Dark one it seems pretty good.
The Shadow what? Sorry.
The Shadow Dark module for Foundry.
Oh yeah,
I think is pretty good, and they make it pretty easy to add your own like role charts and classes and things like that. So I think adding like blacklight to it, I think would be really easy.
I made my own Foundry thing once, and then an update broke it, and I never fixed it.
Yeah. So yeah, we're about we're just over the 3 hour mark. I don't know what else you guys got for modern. Any other takes, any other comments, concerns? Anybody want to tell me I'm wrong some more?
Yeah.
What
I do I do enough of that.
Thanks.
I mean, it definitely struck me that the two genres that I feel like happen the most with modern are horror and war. I feel like there's something telling about that, but when I look back through my list of like the games that I like that are modern, it was like over and over again. It's either they're a horror game or a war game. So maybe those things are sort of intertwined.
Because it allows you that focus that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, if you do urban fantasy horror, like, it's like, okay, like, yeah, I can use my cell phone to call somebody, but it's like, I'm fighting a vampire. Nobody's going to believe me. So why would I even bother? Like, yeah.
Yeah. What else? You guys got any, Mike, Jason?
When, before we started, when we were still backstage, I was walking around my room looking at all my books, writing down books I wanted to talk about, but then I'm looking at them like, man, these are really all over the place. So the first thing I was going to say was, okay, so what do we define as a modern game? And that was the first thing you let off with. And I was like, awesome. And then we debated it for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been resolved yet, as usual.
No, because
really
everybody's got their
conversation.
own kind of ideas as to where that should fall and all of that. And then Vic kind of turned it around to look at it from the RPG standpoint, like what can this run, and define the boundaries kind of there. And I mean, that kind of works. I disagree, but I mean, it works.
Yeah, but which out of both of us, which has published 5 or 6 modern RPG books?
Well, that's all the time we got. Thanks for and that's why you're the perfect one for the show, because you're the one that's obviously a published modern RPG guy, like so that's why it was a great topic to have you on. So
all joking aside, I think both, if you look at it from either side, there's good points, but I think if you're talking about RPGs, you have to boil it down to RPGs. Else you just get into way too much of the nitty gritty.
Sure, and I'll agree with you now, and I'll badmouth you when you're gone. So
that's fine.
But no, I get it, and you're absolutely right. Like as far as that goes, like you got to kind of pick a thing. And if you're going to talk about it from the RPG standpoint, you got to let that be the limits and say, okay, this is how far this can go, in either direction. And I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I know you're sort of developing this as like, if I understand it, it's kind of a modern sort of a broadly generic, modern rules for based on Shadow Dark for modern gaming. But I do think you could. So I was joking before about Jumanji and reverse Jumanji, but that does work with like Blacklight. Like you do reverse Blacklight very easily. That's exactly what you're talking about. Like modern supernatural. Like it's basically incursions from other. That's what Stranger Things was, right? So I do think that actually does work really well. And I definitely would be interested to see kind of what that looked like if you build it out the reverse way.
You just gotta add some
bestiary,
teenagers. Basically. You just gotta add some teenagers that can use machine guns better than.
Well, you need like a mythology that's kind of got a good hook to it.
Yeah.
And then you need like a really good bestiary.
That is in Blacklight. That's part of it. Part of the Blacklight mission is to stop incursions. So if something happens, you go and eliminate the threat.
Yeah.
And then shut.
And it's got the different levels, different levels of
the inspiration
levels and stuff. So
the inspiration was Stranger Things, Silent Hill, like that kind of thing. What's that with the shadows? They did 2 games. I can't remember, but basically that kind of stuff. Also, you mentioned Jumanji. Like I have like the Green Hell like realm, where it's literally just like an evil like toxic jungle with like vines that will wrap around your neck and kill you, and like weird insect things. So like that's basically Jumanji. Like just remove the cartoonish aspect and remove Robin Williams and remove like Van Pelt and stuff like that.
Whoa! What do you mean remove Robin Williams? Hang on.
Yeah. he did. No, well, I'm not gonna make that joke.
Yeah.
But so like that's basically Jumanji. Like imagine like this jungle dimension like encroaches, like a portal opens and it starts encroaching on this town, and all of a sudden this town gets taken over by like this fucking evil toxic jungle, and you're just in there like dealing with stuff. Then no,
that's fantastic. No, I can't wait to run Blacklight some more, but I think that about covers it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, guys. 3 hours and 7 minutes of pretty focused conversation.
So I gotta say, this is like, wow, wrapping it up at 3 hours, and we actually stayed pretty much on topic.
I mean,
tonight.
other than the art frame, the 20 minutes on the art frame, we did good.
We did good.
Oh, that's modern. That's modern technology.
That was not 20 minutes. Definitely wasn't the biggest tangent that happened at all. Just to Jason up a little bit here. I did crack him pretty hard earlier, so I got to stand up for him here.
No, I think it was pretty good. I think it was a good show. I think we got a lot talked about, and I think we gave everybody out there a lot to think about. As far as modern stuff. Yeah. So.
All right, it's been a good night. See you next week.
Next week we're doing the culling the collection episode, and we're going to talk about what things we're getting rid of. Maybe it's time for Vic to get rid of that ripped up Ghost Dog book.
Oh no, it's my very first physical RPG. I'm keeping this until
save that forever. But we're gonna talk about that. Obviously, you guys know I got to cull some stuff, so But that's it. Yeah, I guess that's the important takeaway from this episode.
Yeah,
they are
custom framing prices are bullshit.
Yeah,
I think the takeaway is that Vic's right and everyone else is wrong.
So that's there you go. So thanks everybody. We'll see you next week. Vic, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, welcome.
We'll see you on the back end where you can tell me I'm wrong some more, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
So
bye everyone.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Take care.
See ya.
See ya.